Have you ever felt it? Not as a thought, but as a deep, quiet ache. A sense that you are waiting for a message that was never sent. A map for a territory you already inhabit. A single, clarifying sentence that would make sense of the entire chaotic novel of your life. There is a persistent whisper in the background of modern existence. A hum of something missing, something vital that has been misplaced. You see it in the hurried faces of strangers. You feel it in the quiet desperation of late nights. This sense that everyone else was handed a script at birth, a divine manuscript, and you, somehow, were overlooked. You move through your days feeling like a foreigner in your own story, speaking a language you were never taught, following customs that feel alien to your soul. You have searched for this missing text everywhere, in the pages of books, in the promises of gurus, in the temporary solace of achievement, in the fleeting reflection of another's eyes. You have chased it down endless corridors of information, hoping the next click, the next podcast, the next philosophy would finally deliver the sealed instructions meant only for you. But the search has only left you more tired, the silence inside only growing louder in contrast to the noise you used to distract yourself. What if the manuscript was never lost? What if it has been arriving every single day, every single moment since the day you were born? What if the problem has never been its delivery, but your reception? What if your inner world has been too loud, too crowded, too cluttered with the furniture of old griefs and future anxieties to have a space for it to land? This is an invitation to stop searching outside. It is an invitation to come inside, to enter the quiet room of your own being, a space that has always been there, waiting patiently behind the clamor of your mind. Let us not embark on a journey to find the manuscript. Let us instead begin the sacred work of clearing the space, of stilling the air, of preparing the ground, so that we may finally become open enough for it to arrive. Let us learn to read the language it is written in, a language not of words, but of silence, of feeling, of being. The letter has been sent. The ink is eternal. It is time to become the recipient you were always meant to be. The first page of the manuscript is not written in ink. It is silence. But we have forgotten how to read it. We have become pathologically accustomed to the noise, the endless, grinding static of a world that is terrified of its own quiet heart. This noise is the first and most formidable barrier to the manuscript's arrival. It is a constant, low-grade hum that we have mistaken for the sound of life itself. It is the flicker of the screen, the endless scroll, the torrent of opinions and curated moments that pour into our consciousness from the moment we wake to the moment we collapse into an uneasy sleep. It is the podcast in our ears as we walk, the news on the television as we eat, the compulsive checking of messages as if we are emergency responders waiting for a cataclysmic call. We call it staying connected, staying informed, staying busy. But it is none of these things. It is a sedative. It is the most sophisticated and widely used anesthetic ever invented. A drug we administer to ourselves to numb the profound discomfort of simply being. This addiction to static is not a sign of a full life. It is the symptom of a deep and abiding fear. We are afraid of what we will find in the silence. We are afraid of the questions that bubble up when the distractions fade. Who am I really beneath the labels and the roles? What is the state of my own heart, stripped bare of the need to perform? What unresolved griefs and unspoken longings are waiting for me in that quiet, empty room inside? The noise is a preemptive defense against this encounter. It is a frantic effort to fill every available space with sound, with data, with other people's thoughts, so that we do not have to contend with our own. The inner world becomes an unvisited country, and we become exiles in our own land. The static promises connection, but it delivers only a shallow, frantic imitation. We collect hundreds of friends online, yet we feel deeply alone. We consume terabytes of information, yet we feel no wiser. We are gorging on empty calories of the mind, and our souls are starving. The conflict, then, is born in the rare moments. The static momentarily dies down. In the dead of night, in a moment of unexpected solitude, a different sound can almost be heard. It is not a sound precisely. It is a resonance, a pull, a whisper from the core of your being, a faint signal from the home you have forgotten. It is the manuscript trying to transmit. And in that moment, the choice presents itself. Do you lean into that terrifying, beautiful quiet, or do you desperately reach for the dial, for any station, any noise, to drown it out again? This is the great battle of the modern soul, the desire for a profound, anchoring peace versus the terror of the journey required to attain it. We want the harbor, but we are afraid of the open sea we must cross to get there. We want the truth of the manuscript, but we fear that we are not strong enough to read what is written. We fear that if we turn off the noise, we will discover that there is nothing underneath. This is the ultimate deception of the static. It convinces you that it is all there is, that you are the sum of your distractions. The core message, the first instruction for receiving the divine text, is therefore an act of immense courage. You must be willing to go deaf to the world to hear the whisper of your own soul. The manuscript cannot be read in the chaotic din of the marketplace. It is not shouted from the rooftops. Its truths are revealed in the stillness between two breaths, in the resonant quiet of a mind that has ceased its frantic search. Imagine your mind as a powerful radio receiver, capable of tuning into any frequency in the universe. For years, perhaps for a lifetime, you have kept it tuned to the station of static. It is loud, it is chaotic, it is meaningless, but it is familiar. The divine frequency, the station that broadcasts the manuscript, is always on the air. It has never stopped transmitting, but you cannot hear it through the roar of the static. The first act of power is not to frantically search for the right frequency. It is simply and bravely to turn the volume down, to turn the knob towards zero. This is the true work. This is not a passive waiting. It is an active, disciplined practice. Begin by carving out an island of silence in the ocean of your day. Just 1 hour, perhaps less, to start. An hour where there are no screens, no headphones, no books, no purposeful distractions. Do not call it doing nothing. Call it a sacred appointment with reality. In this hour, your only task is to be present with what is. At first, this silence will feel deafening. The mind, like any addict deprived of its drug, will rebel. It will generate its own internal noise, a storm of anxieties, to-do lists, and random memories. Do not fight it. Do not judge it. Simply observe it. Watch the storm from the shore. This is the withdrawal. This is the static clearing from the line. Stay with it. This is the forging of a new kind of strength. Take a walk, but leave the technology at home. Walk with the sole intention of unlearning. With every step, consciously let go of a thought, an opinion, a worry. The purpose of this walk is not to arrive at a destination, but to arrive at yourself. Listen, not for anything in particular. Just listen. Listen to the sound of your feet on the ground, the wind moving through the leaves, a distant siren, the hum of a refrigerator. Retrain your senses to perceive the subtle symphony of the present moment. For so long, your ears have been trained to process only the loudest, most aggressive sounds. Now, you are teaching them to appreciate nuance, to hear the delicate music playing beneath the noise. This is how you begin to tune the receiver. You are recalibrating your entire being to a finer, more sensitive frequency. Sit somewhere and for 5 minutes, just watch. Watch a cloud move across the sky. Watch the way light falls on a wall. Do not name it, do not analyze it, just witness it. Allow the world to reveal itself to you without the filter of your commentary. This is the foundation. It is not glamorous. It will not yield immediate, explosive results. It is the patient, essential work of tilling the soil. You are turning down the volume of the world so you can begin to hear the sound of your own life. You are clearing the room so the awaited guest can enter. You are calming the water so the reflection can become clear. The static is a tyrant that rules through fear, the fear of emptiness. Your act of rebellion is to court that emptiness, to befriend that silence, and to discover, with time and with courage, that it is not empty at all. It is full. It is the resonant, pulsing, vibrant space where the divine manuscript has been waiting for you all along. It is the first page. Once you have dared to turn down the deafening static of the external world, you will not be met with pristine silence. You will be met with the echoes. After the noise of the crowd fades, the ghosts of yesterday begin to speak. This is the second barrier, the next layer of sound that obscures the manuscript. It is the sound of your own history, played on a relentless loop. If the outer world's noise is a frantic high-pitched static, this inner noise is a deep, resonant drone, a heavy chain being dragged across the floors of your soul. It is the anchor of yesterday, an anchor we mistake for a part of the ship itself, a weight we have carried for so long, we have forgotten what it feels like to be light, to be buoyant, to be free. This anchor is forged from the dense metals of regret, solidified shame, and the cold, hard iron of unforgiven grievances. We clutch its chain as if it is a lifeline, when in reality, it is the very thing holding us captive at the bottom of a familiar sea, preventing our ship from ever catching the winds of the present moment. Why do we cling so tightly to the very thing that drowns us? The mind, in its quest for safety, prefers the misery it knows to the joy it does not. The past, no matter how painful, is a finished story. Its betrayals, its mistakes, its traumas, they are all charted territory. We have walked their landscapes 1,000 times in our minds. We know every jagged rock, every desolate valley. There is a strange, perverse comfort in this familiarity. The future, however, is a blank page, and a blank page can be terrifying. It demands trust. It demands faith. The known pain of the past can feel safer than the unknown potential of the future. Furthermore, we build our identities from the bricks of our past. We become the one who was abandoned, the one who failed, the one who made the unforgivable mistake. Our story of suffering becomes our defining narrative, the central pillar of our personality. To let go of the past feels, on a subconscious level, like an annihilation of the self. If I am not my story of survival, then who am I? This question is so vast, so profound, that the ego would rather cling to its painful, limited identity than dissolve into the immensity of that unknown. We also hold on as a form of misguided justice. We endlessly replay the scene of a betrayal, meticulously gathering evidence in the courtroom of our mind, acting as prosecutor, judge, and jury. We believe that by keeping the wound fresh, we are somehow honoring the injustice, that by refusing to move on, we are holding the perpetrator accountable. But the only prisoner in this courtroom is you. The past does not care for your verdict. It is gone. The only one drinking the poison of resentment is you. Similarly, we cling to guilt over our own mistakes, believing this self-flagellation is a necessary penance. We wear our shame like a hair shirt, convinced that our suffering is what we deserve. But this penance does not change what happened. It only ensures that the mistake from the past continues to claim your future. This creates a soul-tearing conflict. There is a part of you, the seed of tomorrow, that yearns for sunlight. It feels the pull of life, the desire to grow, to become, to create a new reality. It wants to turn its face to the future and set sail for a new horizon. But the ghost of yesterday has a powerful grip. It whispers that you are unworthy, that you are defined by your scars, that the past is the only truth. This creates a state of profound paralysis. You are tethered to a past that no longer exists, and thus unable to fully inhabit the only moment that does, the now. You are a ship with its sails unfurled, catching a phantom wind, while its anchor is lodged deep in the seabed. There is immense energy expenditure, a feeling of constant struggle, but no actual movement. This is the source of a deep and pervasive exhaustion that no amount of sleep can cure. It is the exhaustion of a soul at war with itself, torn between memory and possibility. The divine manuscript, which can only be read in the light of the present, remains illegible, clouded by the long shadow of yesterday. You cannot read the fresh words on a new page if your hands are still gripping the dog-eared, tear-stained pages of a chapter that has long since ended. The core message, the second great act of courage, is this: letting go is not an act of forgetting. It is an act of profound and loving integration. It is not about pretending the past did not happen. That would be a lie, a violence to your own experience. The scars are real. The pain was real. The mistakes were real. Letting go means changing your relationship to them. It means allowing them to be what they are, part of your history, but refusing to allow them to be the definition of your identity or the anchor of your present. You must learn to cut the rope. The anchor itself is not evil. It is simply heavy. Let it sink. Let it become a feature of the ocean floor, a testament to a journey that was difficult. It will remain a part of the vast sea of your life, but it will no longer hold your vessel hostage. This release is the only way to allow your ship to rise to the surface and finally catch the true living winds of now. To begin this process, you must move beyond mere thought and engage in ritual. The mind is a master of loops, but the body and soul understand ceremony. Find a quiet time and a piece of paper. Write down that which you need to release. Give it form. Name the regrets. Detail the mistakes. Acknowledge the grievances. Write to the people you have not forgiven, including yourself. Do not hold back. Pour the poison onto the page until you feel empty of it. This is not for them. This is for you. Then, take this paper and perform a sacred act of transmutation. Safely, consciously, burn it. As you watch the paper turn to ash, as you watch the smoke rise, understand what you are witnessing. You are witnessing the transformation of solid pain into liberated energy. You are making a powerful declaration to the universe and to the deepest part of your own being. This story no longer owns me. I release its power. I take back the energy I have invested in this pain. Then, you must cultivate the art of the witness. Your memories will still arise. But instead of diving into them and reliving the emotion, practice observing them from a distance. Imagine you are sitting in a dark, quiet movie theater. On the screen, a film is playing. The film is your memory. The person on that screen is a former version of you. Feel compassion for them. See their struggle, their pain, their confusion. But know, with unshakable certainty, that you are not the character on the screen. You are the silent, spacious awareness watching the film. The you that is watching is calm, whole, and untouched by the drama. With practice, you can create a sacred space between the observer and the observed. In this space, the emotional charge of the past begins to dissolve. The memory remains a fact, but it loses its power to wound you in the present. It becomes a story you once lived, not a prison you still inhabit. Finally, begin to reframe the narrative, not with dishonesty, but with the wisdom of hindsight. Ask the alchemy question: how did this hardship forge me? What strength was born from this weakness? What compassion grew from this pain? What lesson did this mistake teach me that I could have learned no other way? See your scars not as evidence of your damage, but as proof of your healing. They are the beautiful silvery lines that show where the broken parts of you grew back together, stronger than before. This is not an easy process. It is the work of a lifetime, but it begins now, with the choice to stop honoring your pain more than you honor your potential. The anchor is heavy, but your will to be free is stronger. Let the chain fall from your hands. Feel the impossible lightness. Your ship is beginning to rise. The open ocean awaits. You have begun the courageous work of turning down the world's static. You have started the sacred process of cutting the heavy anchor of yesterday. Your ship is no longer chained to the seabed, and for a moment, you feel a sense of lightness, of possibility. But then you look ahead, and you see it. A thick, gray, impenetrable wall of fog. This is the future. This is the third great barrier that obscures the manuscript, the third layer of noise. It is the ceaseless, anxious chatter of what if. If the past is a drone of what was, the future is a frantic, high-pitched symphony of what might be. It is a fog born not of the elements, but breathed into existence by the fearful mind, a mind that cannot bear the open space of the unknown, and so rushes to fill it with phantoms and specters of its own creation. Anxiety is the mind's misguided attempt to colonize a land that does not exist. It is a form of intellectual arrogance, the ego's belief that it can, through sheer force of worry, map out and control every contingency of tomorrow. It operates like a ghost architect, sitting hunched over a vast drafting table inside your skull. Tirelessly, it draws blueprints for futures that will never be built. It designs elaborate structures of failure, magnificent cathedrals of catastrophe, detailed schematics of embarrassment and loss. It shows you these blueprints again and again, presenting them not as possibilities, but as certainties. See, it whispers, this is how you will fail. This is where the bridge will collapse. This is the precise angle from which the attack will come. This compulsive catastrophizing is a defense mechanism. The mind believes that by imagining the worst, it can prepare for it, that it can preemptively feel the pain and thus rob it of its power. But this is a profound illusion. You cannot pre-suffer your way to safety. You only succeed in poisoning the present with a future that may never arrive. You are drinking the poison today in case you are offered it tomorrow. This phantom architecture drains you of the very energy, presence, and resilience you would need to navigate the future when it finally solidifies into the present. You exhaust yourself building imaginary castles of dread, leaving you with no strength to live in the real house of now. This gives rise to a deep internal conflict between the ego and the soul. Your ego, the terrified architect, craves certainty. It wants a signed contract from the universe, a guarantee that the journey will be safe, that the destination will be worth it, that there will be no storms. It stands at the harbor's edge, paralyzed, demanding to see the far shore before it will allow the ship to set sail. It believes that planning is the same as controlling, that worrying is the same as preparing. Your soul, however, operates on a different principle. The soul is the seasoned sailor. It does not demand to see the destination. It knows that the journey itself is the point. It trusts the integrity of its vessel, the wisdom of the stars, the feel of the current. The soul understands that life is inherently uncertain and that this uncertainty is not a threat, but the very condition for growth and adventure. It knows that you cannot learn to sail while staying in the harbor. The conflict is that agonizing hesitation at the water's edge. The ego screams of rocks and tempests and monsters of the deep. The soul whispers of the open ocean, of the moon on the water, of lands beyond imagination. And you are caught between the scream and the whisper, paralyzed by a future that exists only as a fearful thought. The core message, the third great truth required to read the manuscript, is this. The future is a fiction. It is a concept, a dream, a ghost. The only time that has ever existed, the only time that will ever exist, is now. The divine manuscript is not a book of prophecy. It is not a map of the road ahead. It is a guide on how to walk, right here, right now. All anxiety is a misplacement of presence. It is the act of abandoning the solid ground of the present moment to wander, lost, in the shapeless fog of tomorrow. The irony is that the future you are so desperately trying to control is being created by the quality of the present you are so carelessly abandoning. A present moment filled with anxiety and fear can only seed a future of a similar nature. A present moment filled with presence and courage is the only possible foundation for a future worth living. Expand the metaphor of the fog. When you stand in a thick fog, the world ahead of you is completely obscured. It feels vast, disorienting, and dangerous. But if you look down at your feet, the ground is perfectly solid, perfectly clear. You can see the earth, the grass, the pebbles. The fog does not touch the ground you are standing on. Anxiety is the act of staring exclusively into the fog. The antidote is to lower your gaze, to bring your attention back to the solid ground beneath your feet. You do not need a giant searchlight to pierce the entire fog bank. You only need a small, humble lantern that illuminates your very next step. That lantern is your presence. That next step is the only part of the future you ever have any power over. The manuscript is not written in the fog. It is written on the solid ground of the now. Trying to read about the chapter of next year is impossible. The words are unintelligible mist. But the sentence that pertains to this exact moment is written in brilliant, shining ink right at your feet. By staring into the fog, you miss it completely. The practice, then, is the cultivation of this one step at a time consciousness. When your mind is spinning with 1,000 what-ifs about next week, next month, next year, bring it all back with a single, powerful question. What is the one, simple, physical action I can take right now? The answer is never grand. It is, drink this glass of water. Feel the cool liquid go down your throat. It is, tie my shoelace. Notice the texture of the lace in your fingers. It is, wash this one dish. Feel the warmth of the water on your hands. Each tiny, mundane act, when performed with total presence, becomes a powerful anchor. It pulls your consciousness out of the phantom world of the future and plants it firmly back into the living soil of the present. This is the discipline of the lantern. You are not trying to conquer the fog. You are simply choosing to focus your light on the only patch of ground that matters, the one you are on. Re-engage the anchor of the breath, but for this specific purpose. When you feel the familiar tightening in your chest, the shallow breathing, the racing heart of anxiety, recognize it as the signal that your mind has flown off into the fog. Do not judge it. Gently, as if calling back a lost child, use your breath to guide it home. Feel the physical sensation of one inhalation. Notice the cool air entering your nostrils. Follow it down into your lungs. Notice the brief pause. Then follow the exhalation out, feeling the warmer air brush your upper lip. Do this once, then do it again. This is not a thought. This is a physical reality. The catastrophe you are imagining for next Tuesday is a thought. The feeling of your lungs expanding right now is reality. Choose reality. Every breath is a stitch that mends the tear between your mind and your body, pulling you back into the wholeness of the present moment. The future is a story you tell yourself. The breath is the truth that is happening now. The manuscript is written in the language of this truth. By grounding yourself in the real, you make yourself available to read it. Do not try to solve the entire maze at once. Just take the next step. The path will reveal itself, not all at once, but one illuminated footfall at a time. The light is sufficient for the step, and the step is all there is. You have quieted the outside world, you have loosened the anchor of the past, you have learned to find your footing in the fog of the future. You have cleared a space, and in this newly cleared space, you make a terrifying discovery. You are not free. You are in a cage. It is a cage with no visible bars, a lock with no visible key. It is a structure so deeply embedded in your psyche that you have mistaken its bars for your own ribs, its confines for the limits of your own skin. This is the cage of shoulds, the fourth and perhaps most insidious barrier to the arrival of the manuscript. It is the collective script of expectations handed to you by society, by family, by culture, a script that tells you who you should be, what you should want, and how you should live. And you have been playing your part so well for so long that you have forgotten you are even acting. These shoulds are the invisible architects of a life that is not your own. They are the grand societal narratives whispered from birth. You should be successful, but only a certain kind of success. You should be in a relationship, but only a certain kind of relationship. You should be ambitious, but not too ambitious. You should be unique, but not too different. They are the subtle, powerful currents of familial expectation, the unspoken dreams and disappointments of your parents and ancestors projected onto you. You should enter the family trade. You should not shame the family name. You should provide the grandchildren they desire. You should be the person who finally heals their wounds. And most powerfully, there are the internalized shoulds. These are the external expectations that you have swallowed so completely they now speak with your own voice. The guard is no longer outside the cage. He has moved into your own head. I should be more disciplined. I should be thinner. I should be happier. I should want what they have. We become our own most relentless jailers, policing our every thought and desire, ensuring they do not stray from the accepted script. Living this way is a slow, spiritual suffocation. It is a death by 1,000 tiny compromises. It is the dull, persistent ache of inauthenticity, the low-grade fever of a soul that is being denied its own expression. It is the feeling of being an imposter at the center of your own existence, smiling and nodding while a silent scream builds in your heart. This creates the fundamental conflict between the persona you have built for survival and the authentic self that is crying out to live. There is the part of you, the good child, the model citizen, whose primary drive is for safety, acceptance, and belonging. This part learned very early that conforming to the shoulds is the most effective strategy to receive love and avoid rejection. Its greatest fear is disapproval. It is terrified of being cast out of the tribe, of being seen as difficult, strange, or selfish. It will do almost anything to maintain its standing within the group, including sacrificing its own deepest truths on the altar of public opinion. Then there is the other part, the wild soul. This is the voice of the manuscript itself. This is your untamed, unconditioned essence. It does not speak in the language of logic or obligation. It speaks in the language of resonance, of passion, of a sacred longing. It is the part of you that is stirred by a particular piece of music, that feels a pull towards a city you've never visited, that is fascinated by a subject that has no practical application. It is the quiet but persistent dissatisfaction you feel when you have checked all the boxes of a good life but still feel empty inside. The conflict is the tension between the perceived safety of the cage and the terrifying, exhilarating call of the wilderness. The good child wants to stay where it is known and accepted. The wild soul wants to run free, even if it means running alone. The core message, the fourth great truth on the path to openness, is that authenticity is not a self-indulgent luxury. It is a spiritual imperative. Your divine manuscript is a singular, unrepeatable masterpiece. To live by a should is to tear a page from your own sacred text and attempt to awkwardly glue in a page from someone else's footnote. The story becomes a discordant mess. It lacks integrity, flow, and power. The deepest betrayal is not when others disappoint you, but when you betray your own soul to gain the approval of others. This betrayal is the root of the listlessness and quiet desperation that haunts so many. The good news is that this cage you inhabit is an illusion. Its bars are forged only from the opinions of others, which have no real substance. The lock is not made of steel, it is made of your own fear of their judgment. And the key is not hidden. It is not something you must earn or find. You are holding it. You have been holding it all along. The key is self-permission. It is the radical, world-altering, cage-shattering decision to grant yourself the authority to be who you are. It is the realization that you do not need a committee to approve your own existence. The door to the cage has been unlocked this entire time. Your fear has kept you from pushing it. The practice of liberation begins with a single, profound question. Find a quiet space, take a breath, and ask your deepest self, if no one in the world would judge me, what would I do? Who would I be? Ask this not as a fleeting fantasy, but as a deep archaeological inquiry. Let the question sink beneath the floor of your conditioned mind. Listen for the first answer that arises before your inner critic can shout it down. The first answers may seem childish, impractical, or strange. I would paint. I would live in a cabin. I would stop talking to that person. I would dance. Do not analyze these answers. Cherish them. They are pure, uncorrupted signals from your wild soul. They are clues from the manuscript. Write them down without censorship. This is the map out of the cage. Next, you must learn to wield the sacred no. Every time you say no to a request, an invitation, or an expectation that feels like a should, you are strengthening your authentic self. You are choosing your own truth over someone else's comfort. This will feel terrifying at first. The good child in you will scream in protest, warning you of all the terrible consequences. Start small. Say no to a minor social obligation that drains your energy. Say no to taking on a task that isn't your responsibility. Each no is an act of liberation. It is you, the sovereign of your own inner kingdom, deciding what is allowed within your borders. Each no to a false should creates a resounding yes to your own soul. It clears a little more space for the manuscript to breathe. Finally, begin to navigate your life not by the map of shoulds, but by the compass of resonance. Before making a decision, big or small, pause. Place a hand on your heart or your gut. Instead of asking, what is the sensible thing to do? Or, what will people think? Ask, does this choice feel expansive or contractive? Does it make me feel more alive or more numb? Does it resonate with the person I truly am or the person I've been pretending to be? Learn to trust the subtle signals of your body. A feeling of lightness, excitement, or a quiet, calm yes is the compass needle pointing towards your true north. A feeling of heaviness, dread, or a clenching in your gut is the needle pointing away. This is the language of the manuscript, speaking directly through the wisdom of your physical form. To live from this place is to begin walking out of the cage. The door is open. The wilderness of your own true life is waiting. It may seem scary, but it is the only place where you can truly breathe. It is the only place the manuscript can be fully lived. Step out. You have stepped through the bars of the cage. The chorus of shoulds has faded to a distant murmur. You stand now in a new kind of space, a clearing you have carved out of the dense forest of your conditioning. And the first thing you notice in this clearing is the quality of the air. It is still, it is vast, it is silent, and it is terrifying. This is the fifth great challenge, the fifth barrier. It is our profound, culturally ingrained fear of silence itself. We have come to equate silence with emptiness, with nothingness, with death. We see it as a void to be filled at all costs, but this is the greatest misunderstanding. Silence is not the void. Silence is the womb. It is the primordial substance from which all true things are born. The divine manuscript is not delivered to you in a thunderclap of noise. It is gestated in the fertile darkness of a quiet mind, and its first movements are felt only when you have learned to be profoundly still. Our aversion to silence is a deep sickness of the soul. We live in a civilization that worships the god of productivity, a jealous god that demands constant action, constant output, constant noise. Our value as human beings has become inextricably linked to what we do, what we produce, what we achieve. In this paradigm, to be silent, to be still, to simply be, is to be useless. It is seen as a form of laziness, a waste of precious time, and so we have developed a collective horror vacui, a fear of the vacuum. We fill every spare moment with stimulation. We turn on the television not to watch it, but just to have a sound in the room. We scroll through our phones in the elevator, in the queue, in the brief moments between tasks, terrified of being left alone with ourselves for even 30 seconds. This is because silence is a powerful truth serum. When you dare to be quiet, the things you have successfully drowned out with busyness begin to surface. The quiet grief you never fully processed, the dull ache of a dream you abandoned, the gnawing loneliness you covered with social activity, the uncomfortable questions about the direction of your life. Silence brings all of this to the surface, and we are terrified of what it will show us. We fear that if we stop doing, we will discover that we are nothing, that our identity is merely a fragile construct of our actions and achievements, and that beneath it all lies an empty, hollow core. So we keep running, we keep talking, we keep doing, all to avoid a confrontation with this perceived nothingness. This engenders the primary inner conflict between the two aspects of your being, the doer and the beer. The doer is the part of you that has been trained and rewarded by the world. It is the project manager of your life. It makes the lists, sets the goals, solves the problems. It is addicted to progress, to forward momentum, to the feeling of accomplishment. The doer sees a silent moment as a problem to be solved, an inefficiency to be corrected. It becomes anxious and agitated in stillness, constantly asking, what should I be doing next? The beer is the older, deeper, wiser part of you. It is your soul. The beer understands the rhythms of nature. It knows that a seed does not grow by frantically trying, but by patiently resting in the dark soil. It knows that after a great effort, there must be a period of rest and integration. It understands that the most profound insights, the most creative breakthroughs, do not come from forcing and striving, but from receptive, open waiting. The conflict is the constant chatter of the doer, drowning out the quiet wisdom of the beer. It is the impatience of the mind clashing with the deep, slow patience of the soul. Your entire life, the doer has been at the helm. The invitation of silence is an invitation to let the beer take the wheel for a while, and the doer is terrified of relinquishing that control. The core message, the fifth great truth, is that silence is not empty. It is pregnant. It is the fertile ground from which everything of value grows. It is the canvas, and your thoughts, your actions, your words are the paint. Without the canvas, the paint is just a meaningless mess. Silence is to consciousness what the rest is to music. A symphony filled only with notes, with no pauses, would be an unbearable assault on the ears. It is the rests, the spaces between the notes, that give the music its rhythm, its emotion, its power. Your life is a piece of music. By fearing silence, you have been trying to play a symphony with no rests. The result is a life of frantic, meaningless noise. The manuscript is written in the language of these rests. It is in the pauses that its meaning is revealed. Therefore, you must become an architect of silence. You must stop seeing silence as something that happens when the noise stops, and start seeing it as something you intentionally and lovingly build within the structure of your life. You are not clearing out a room. You are building a cathedral. You are designing a sanctuary within yourself, a sacred space you can retreat to, not to hide, but to hear. The most direct way to begin building this sanctuary is the formal practice of sitting, often called meditation, but we must strip away the myths. The goal of this practice is not to stop your thoughts. You cannot stop your thoughts any more than you can stop the clouds from moving across the Aki. To try is to create a war with yourself that you will always lose. The goal is far more simple and far more profound. To simply sit and be present with what is. To sit for 10, 20, 30 minutes and to watch the traffic of your mind without chasing after every car. To observe a thought arise, to notice it without judgment, and to watch it dissolve again. You are not the thoughts. You are the silent, spacious awareness in which the thoughts are happening. At first, this practice will show you just how noisy your mind is. This is not a sign of failure. It is the first sign of success. You are finally becoming aware of the baseline of noise you have been living with your entire life. By sitting in this inner cathedral day after day, you slowly build the muscle of non-attachment. You begin to identify less with the noise of the mind and more with the deep, abiding silence that exists beneath it. This silence was always there. You just couldn't hear it under the shouting. You must also learn from the great master of silence, nature. Go to a forest, a park, a beach, and for a time, practice the art of non-doing. Do not go to hike a certain distance, or to get exercise, or to identify species of birds. Go simply to be. Find a place to sit and become a part of the landscape. Be as silent and still as a stone. Listen, the silence of nature is not an absence of sound. It is teeming with life. The whisper of wind in the pines, the drone of a bee, the distant call of a bird, these are not sounds that break the silence. They are sounds that are born from the silence. They are the expressions of the great, living quiet. By immersing yourself in this, you retrain your nervous system. You teach it that silence is not a void to be feared, but a living presence to be revered. It is your natural state. Finally, begin to microdose silence throughout your day. The world will not grant you long stretches of quiet. You must claim them. In the 10 seconds after you park your car, before you get out, in the minute you are waiting for water to boil, in the brief pause before you answer a question, these are the cracks in the structure of the day. Our habit is to immediately fill these cracks with our phones, with worry, with planning. The practice is to consciously inhabit them. For those few seconds, just be, feel your breath. Feel the chair beneath you. Do nothing. These tiny moments are acts of quiet rebellion against the cult of busyness. They are you, the architect, intentionally designing small sanctuaries of silence, small rests in the music of your day. They teach your soul, breath by breath, that silence is not a threat. It is a refuge. It is home. It is the clean, empty page upon which the next sacred words are about to be written. You have built a sanctuary of silence. You have sat within its walls, and in the quiet, you have begun to notice the ceaseless activity of your own mind. You have seen the ghosts of the past and the phantoms of the future. You have recognized the bars of the cage of shoulds. Now, in this newfound clarity, we arrive at the next crucial unfolding of the path. We arrive at awareness itself. Before, you were swimming blindly in a murky, agitated pond, tossed about by every current, your vision obscured by the mud you yourself were churning up. The practice of awareness is the process by which the mud settles, the water stills, and you realize you are not the water at all. You are the vast, silent basin that holds the water. This is the journey of discovering the still lake of awareness, and it is here that the manuscript begins to reflect a truth so profound it can change everything. The single greatest source of human suffering is the fallacy of mistaken identity. We have spent our entire lives believing that we are the contents of our consciousness, when in fact we are the consciousness itself. The first and most powerful form of this is the identification with thought. A thought, random and conditioned, flickers through the mind a worry, a judgment, a memory, and we immediately grasp it and say, I think. From there it is a tiny, fatal step to I am. We believe the voice in our head is the core of our being. We take its endless, neurotic chatter as gospel truth. But your thoughts are not you. Your thoughts are mental weather. They are clouds passing through the vast, open sky of your mind. Some are dark and stormy, some are light and wispy. They are transient, impersonal, and ultimately not you. You are not the cloud, you are the sky. To believe you are the cloud is to be tossed and turned by every gust of wind. To know you are the sky is to find a place of unshakable peace that can hold all weather. Next, we identify with our emotions. A wave of anger or sadness washes over us, and we declare, I am angry, or I am sad. We become completely consumed by the emotion. It becomes our total reality. But you are not your emotions. An emotion is simply energy moving through your body. It is a physiological and chemical response to a thought or an event. It is emotion, energy in motion. Like the weather, it is transient. It arises, it dwells for a time, and if you allow it to, it will pass. By saying, I am angry, you freeze the energy. You build an identity around it. The practice of awareness invites a simple, radical shift in language and identity from I am angry to I am aware of anger arising in me. In that single shift, you have created space. You have gone from being the storm to being the sky that observes the storm. The storm may be violent, but the sky remains untouched, unharmed, and vast. The same is true of your roles, your personality, your body. These are all temporary costumes you are wearing, vehicles you are inhabiting. You are not your job, you are not a mother, a father, a son. You are not your successes or your failures. You are the silent, conscious presence that is aware of all these things. To mistake the costume for the actor is the fundamental error. This mistaken identity is the engine of all reactivity. This is the deep inner conflict between reaction and response. Reaction is the unconscious reflex of the identified self. When someone criticizes an opinion you hold, and you believe you are that opinion, you experience it as a personal attack. The reaction is instantaneous. Defensiveness, anger, counterattack. A pebble is thrown into the murky pond of your mind, and the entire pond erupts in a chaotic, muddy mess. Response, on the other hand, is the hallmark of the aware self. It is born in the sacred pause, the space you have cultivated through silence. In that space, when the pebble of stimulus lands, you don't immediately react. You observe. You watch the initial ripple of anger begin to form. You feel the energy of defensiveness arise in your body. But because you know you are the sky and not the storm, you are not swept away. You can witness these impulses without being commanded by them. And from that place of calm observation, you can choose how to respond in a way that is aligned with your deeper wisdom, not your conditioned reflexes. You can respond with clarity, with compassion, with silence. The still lake absorbs the pebble. There is a ripple, yes, but the lake's fundamental stillness and clarity remain. It does not become the disturbance. The core message, the sixth great truth, is this: you are the container, not the contents. This is the most liberating realization available to a human being. Your thoughts, your emotions, your sensations, your life stories, these are all the contents. They are constantly changing, arising, and passing away. But you, the awareness that is witnessing all of it, are the container. You are constant, unchanging, and ever-present. You are the same silent awareness, watching your thoughts as a 5-year-old as you are now. The thoughts have changed, but the watcher has not. To discover this watcher, this silent self, is to find the only true refuge there is. It is to step out of the turbulent river of experience and sit peacefully on the bank, watching it all flow by without being carried away. This still, clear awareness is the page upon which the manuscript is written. You cannot read the words if you are thrashing about in the water. You must come to rest on the shore of your own being. The practice begins with the gentle art of labeling or noting. As you sit in your quiet sanctuary and a thought or feeling arises, simply greet it with a soft mental note. Planning, worrying, judging, longing, sadness is here. This is not a cold clinical analysis. It is a tender act of recognition. You are like a loving grandparent sitting on a porch, watching your grandchildren play in the yard. There's little anger running around again. There's sadness sitting under the tree. You are not the children. You are the loving, spacious presence that gives them room to play. This simple act of noting creates an immediate space. It short-circuits the mechanism of identification. The thought is no longer me, it is planning. It is an event happening in your awareness, not the sum total of your awareness. Then, you can go deeper with the master key question, who is watching this? When you are caught in a spiral of anxious thought, gently, inwardly ask, who is aware of this anxiety? Don't search for a verbal answer. The question itself is the key. The very act of asking it shifts your perspective. In an instant, you are no longer the one who is anxious. You have become the one who is aware of anxiety. You have jumped from the movie screen into the audience. You have shifted from being the thought to being the awareness of the thought. Practice this throughout your day. When you feel a strong emotion, ask, who is feeling this? When you are lost in a story, ask, who is watching this story? This question is a direct path back to the still lake, back to the silent watcher who is your true self. Finally, when the mind is too chaotic, use the body as your anchor to awareness. Bring your entire attention to a single, raw sensation, the feeling of your feet planted firmly on the earth, the subtle tingling in your hands, the complex, unfolding taste of a single raisin in your mouth. The world of the 5 senses exists only in the now. The mind can travel to the past or the future, but you can only feel the floor beneath you now. By fully inhabiting a physical sensation, you force your awareness into the present moment. You anchor yourself in the undeniable reality of your body, and in doing so, you step out of the illusory reality of your thoughts. The still lake of awareness is your birthright. It is not something you need to create. You only need to uncover it. It is lying just beneath the turbulent surface of your mind. Be still, notice, watch, and on the calm surface of your own being, the entire sky will reveal its secrets. You have sat in the cathedral of silence. You have witnessed the ceaseless weather of your mind from the calm sky of awareness. You have seen the truth, that you are not your thoughts, not your emotions, not your stories. An immense space has opened up within you. This is the moment of profound insight, the moment the manuscript reveals a glimpse of its luminous script, and it is also the moment of greatest peril, for insight without action is merely a pleasant dream, a beautiful, pristine awareness that does not translate into the way you live your life is a sterile trophy on a shelf. The gap between seeing what is true and living that truth is the chasm where most spiritual journeys end. To cross this chasm, you must build a bridge. That bridge is called discipline. And to build it, you must enter the forge. You must become the blacksmith of your own will and begin the sacred, arduous work of forging the unseen sword. The word discipline has been poisoned for us. We associate it with punishment, with deprivation, with the grim, joyless obligation of a taskmaster. We see it as the enemy of freedom, the opposite of inspiration. This is a profound and debilitating lie. We believe we must wait for the lightning bolt of inspiration to strike before we can act. We sit, waiting for the muse to arrive, for the perfect mood, for the feeling of motivation to overwhelm us. But the universe does not work this way. This is the great reversal of cosmic law. Inspiration is not the cause of action, it is the child of action. The muse does not visit the idol. She is drawn to the sound of the hammer on the anvil. She reveals herself to the one who is already working. To wait for the feeling is to wait for a ship that will never leave port. You must be the one to raise the sails and catch the wind of your own momentum. The feeling follows the action, not the other way around. Our resistance is also rooted in a grandiose, all-or-nothing mindset. We have a moment of clarity and declare, starting tomorrow, I will wake at dawn, meditate for an hour, run 5 miles, and write 1,000 words, all before breakfast. This is not a plan. It is a fantasy of perfection. It is the ego setting an impossible standard so that when we inevitably fail on the second day, it has an excuse to abandon the entire enterprise. It can then conclude with a sigh of relief. See, I'm just not a disciplined person. This self-sabotage allows us to retreat to the familiar comfort of inaction. Procrastination is not laziness. Procrastination is fear. It is the fear of being measured and found wanting. It is the fear of the hard, unglamorous work required to bring a dream into reality. It is the fear of failure, and sometimes, even more deeply, the fear of success and the responsibility that comes with it. This is the timeless conflict between the dreamer and the builder within you. The dreamer is the architect of magnificent castles in the sky. It is intoxicated with potential. It loves the vision boards, the inspiring podcasts, the first blank page of a new journal. The dreamer gets a dopamine hit from the idea of transformation. It is the part of you that buys the running shoes but leaves them in the box. The builder, however, is the humble stonemason. The builder is the part of you that shows up on a cold Tuesday morning when the inspiration has vanished and the dream feels a million miles away. It finds a quiet dignity in the repetitive, mundane act of mixing the mortar and laying one single brick perfectly. The dreamer wants to have written the book. The builder is the one who writes one true sentence, and then another. Our culture celebrates the dreamer, but it is the builder who changes the world. Your spiritual life will remain a beautiful dream until you learn to honor and inhabit the builder. The builder is the one who enters the forge each day, regardless of mood. The core message, the seventh great truth, is that discipline is the ultimate expression of self-love. It is not punishment. It is the structure that allows your best self to flourish. It is the riverbank that gives the river its power and direction. Without its banks, a river is not a river. It is a swamp. Your potential is the water. Discipline provides the banks. It is the highest act of faith you can engage in faith, that your future self is worth the effort you are making today. It is you, in the present, sending a gift of strength and capacity to you in the future. This is the work of the forge. Your will, your character, your capacity to act this is the unseen sword. In its raw form, it is soft iron, your good intentions, your fleeting desires. It is shapeless and weak. To transform it, you need two things, fire and a hammer. The fire is your why. It is the deep, burning purpose you have connected with in your moments of clarity. It is the vision of the person you are becoming. You must keep this fire hot. The hammer is your daily, consistent, chosen action. Each strike of the hammer is the small, conscious act you perform, waking up 10 minutes earlier, choosing the water over the soda, meditating for 3 minutes, writing one paragraph, Each strike in isolation seems insignificant. It is a tiny dent in the metal. The ego will mock it. What difference does this one little thing make? But the blacksmith knows the secret. The secret is accumulation. It is the thousands upon thousands of seemingly insignificant strikes, applied with heat and intention, that slowly, miraculously transform the soft, useless iron into hardened, resilient, razor-sharp steel. Your character is not forged in a single heroic moment of crisis. It is forged in the quiet, unglamorous, daily rhythm of the hammer. The practice of forging begins with reverence for the smallest possible action. Outsmart your resistant mind by making the task laughably small. This is the rule of the first 2 minutes. If your goal is to meditate for 30 minutes, your disciplined act is to sit on the cushion for 2 minutes. If your goal is to write a book, your act is to open the document and write 1 sentence. If your goal is to run a marathon, your act is to put on your running shoes and step outside your door. The goal is not the outcome. The goal is to become the person who starts. The 2-minute ritual is not about the 2 minutes. It is about casting a vote for a new identity. With each tiny action, you are telling yourself, I am the kind of person who shows up. With this, you must commit to the process and divorce yourself from the outcome. Your sacred duty is to show up at the forge each day and strike the anvil. That is it. That is your victory. Whether the sword looks beautiful today, whether you feel strong today, whether you see progress today, all of this is irrelevant. Your job is the hammer. Fall in love with the feeling of the hammer in your hand, with the rhythm of the work, with the simple integrity of showing up. By releasing your attachment to the result, you free yourself from the anxiety of performance and find joy in the dignity of the effort itself. Finally, choose one core practice and make it a non-negotiable contract with yourself. Let it be small, but make it absolute. It is not dependent on your mood. It is not dependent on the weather. It is not dependent on whether you feel like it. It is simply who you are and what you do. This single act becomes the bedrock of your self-trust. When you keep this one foundational promise to yourself, day after day, you are rebuilding your relationship with yourself from the ground up. You are proving to your own deepest being that your word is law. This self-trust is the steel from which the sword is made. The world does not yield to your dreams or your intentions. It yields to your sword. It yields to your focused, disciplined, and consistent action. Pick up your hammer. The fire is hot. The anvil is waiting. You have entered the forge and begun to strike the anvil, building the unseen sword of your will. The work is hard, the fire is hot, and the hammer is heavy. And in this process of shaping yourself, you will inevitably encounter the sharpest, most difficult material of all, pain. Your sword is not meant to remain in a display case. It is meant to be tested in the world, and the world is a place of both exquisite beauty and unavoidable hardship. Our entire culture is a conspiracy against pain. We are taught from birth that pain is a signal of failure, a problem to be eradicated, a flaw in the system of life. We are sold endless distractions, medications, and philosophies designed to numb it, to bypass it, to deny it. But the manuscript of your soul contains a chapter written in a language that can only be understood through the experience of pain. To deny pain is to refuse to read this crucial chapter. The 8th great truth is this: pain is not the enemy, it is the alchemist. It is the sacred fire that burns away the non-essential and reveals the indestructible gold of your true nature. Our dysfunctional relationship with pain is the source of almost all our prolonged suffering. When pain arrives, the pain of loss, of failure, of betrayal, of illness, we typically react in one of 3 ways, all of which are forms of resistance. The first is avoidance. We immediately seek a distraction. We plunge ourselves into work. We lose ourselves in the endless scroll of the screen. We numb ourselves with food or drink or empty entertainment. We do anything and everything to not feel the clean, sharp edge of what is happening. But the pain does not vanish. It is simply buried alive. And a buried pain does not die. It festers in the darkness, poisoning our lives from beneath the surface, emerging as anxiety, as depression, as a chronic, unnamed malaise. The second reaction is to become identified with the pain. We build a story around it, the story of victimhood. The pain becomes our identity. I am the one who was wronged. I am the one who is broken. We replay the story endlessly, nursing the grievance, keeping the wound open because the scar tissue of our identity has grown around it. This turns the clean fire of pain into the toxic, stagnant smoke of resentment. The third reaction is shame. We believe our pain is evidence of our inadequacy. We feel that our trauma, our grief, or our failure is a dirty secret that must be hidden at all costs. We hide our scars as if they were marks of disgrace, fearing that if anyone saw them, they would see how truly broken and unworthy we are. In all three cases avoidance, identification, and shymite, is not the pain itself that causes the deepest harm. Pain is the initial clean burn. Suffering is the infection we create by resisting the burn, by telling ourselves a story about the burn, by being ashamed of the burn. This creates a profound inner conflict between the vulnerable self and the resilient self. The vulnerable self is the part of you that directly experiences the impact of pain. It is the open, tender heart that can be wounded. Its natural, primal instinct is to recoil from the source of pain and to build walls to prevent ever being hurt in that way again. If love leads to heartbreak, the vulnerable self wants to stop loving. If creativity leads to failure, it wants to stop creating. If life leads to loss, it wants to stop living fully. It seeks a life of perfect, sterile safety, even if that safety is a prison of numbness. The resilient self is the deep, wise core of your being. It is the alchemist. It does not seek out pain, but when pain inevitably arrives as a natural consequence of a full life, it knows how to meet it. It understands that a heart that cannot be broken is a heart that cannot love. It knows that the only way to avoid failure is to never attempt anything meaningful. The resilient self understands that pain is not a punishment, but a potent catalyst for growth. The conflict is the battle between the desire to build higher walls around your heart and the courage to let it break open. It is the choice between a life of safe numbness and a life of vulnerable, open, and profound feeling. The core message, the secret of the alchemist, is this: your pain is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that you are being broken open. The cracks and fissures that hardship creates in your psyche are not flaws. They are the very openings through which the light of grace, wisdom, and compassion can finally enter. A smooth, polished, unbroken vessel is beautiful, but it is sealed. It can hold nothing new. It is the broken vessel, the one that has been shattered and lovingly put back together, that has a story, that has character, that can hold the light in its cracks. This is the art of kintsugi, the Japanese practice of repairing broken pottery with seams of gold. The philosophy is that the object is more beautiful and precious for having been broken. The scars are not concealed. They are illuminated, highlighted, honored as a testament to the object's history and resilience. This is the model for your own heart. Your scars are your lines of gold. They are the proof that you have lived and loved and dared and healed. The manuscript of your life is not written on a pristine, untouched page. It is written on the rich, textured, scarred parchment of your own experience. The practical work of this alchemy begins not with analysis, but with presence. When a painful feeling arises a pang of grief, a surge of shame, a wave of loneliness, your conditioned reflex is to flee. The practice is to turn towards it, to have the courage to be still and simply feel it. Locate the pain as a physical sensation in your body. Where does it live? Is it a tightness in your throat? A hollowness in your chest? A knot in your stomach? Do not try to name it or fix it. Simply bring your gentle, curious, compassionate attention to the physical sensation. Breathe into it. Imagine you are directing the warmth and oxygen of your breath into that tight, cold place. You are not trying to make it go away. You are offering it the one thing it has never received. your loving, non-judgmental presence. You are sitting with the wounded child inside you, holding its hand and whispering, "I am here. I will not abandon you." This act of compassionate presence is the fire of the alchemist. It is the heat that begins the process of transformation. For the scars that have already healed, the practice is to consciously harvest their wisdom. Look back at a difficult period in your life from the safety of your present. Choose one scar and ask the alchemical question, what is the gift in this wound? What did I learn from this pain that I could have learned no other way? Be patient with the answer. Perhaps the heartbreak taught you the true depth of your capacity to love. Perhaps the failure taught you humility and resilience. Perhaps the loss cracked you open to a compassion for others you never knew you had. This is not about finding a silver lining or pretending the pain was good. The pain was pain. It was real. This practice is about acknowledging that in the fertile soil of that pain, something of immense value has grown. It is the act of finding the gold that the alchemist has left for you. Finally, you must change your relationship with your scars forever. Cease to see them as evidence of your damage. Begin to see them with reverence as proof of your strength. They are the receipts of your life lessons. They are the marks of the warrior, not the victim. They show not where you were weak, but where you were strong enough to heal. When you look at your life, do not see a history of what went wrong. See a tapestry woven with threads of gold, the shining testament to every time you were broken open and chose to let the light in. Your pain has not been a detour from your path. It has been the path. It has been the harsh, sacred chisel that has carved you into the person you are today. And the manuscript you will find was never about avoiding the darkness. It was about learning to read by the light of your own golden seams. You have walked through the fire of your own pain and have begun to see the golden seams it has left behind. You are learning to be a compassionate alchemist to your own heart. Now, you must learn to be the fierce guardian of that same heart. Having tended to your own wounds, you must learn to prevent the unnecessary wounds inflicted by a world that will, if you let it, consume your time, your energy, and your spirit without a moment's thought. This brings us to the 9th great practice on the path to openness, the cultivation of the sacred and sovereign number. In a culture that confuses niceness with goodness, we are taught that to be a spiritual person is to be endlessly available, endlessly accommodating, a bottomless well from which others can draw at will. This is a dangerous and draining falsehood. The truth is that your yes has no power, no integrity, no meaning until you have developed the calm, unwavering courage to say number. Your no is not an act of aggression. It is the drawing of a sacred boundary. It is the wall you build around your inner garden, ensuring that the delicate work you are doing within is not trampled and destroyed. The compulsion to say yes to every request is a deep trauma response masquerading as kindness. For most of us, it is a survival strategy learned in childhood. As a child, your physical and emotional survival depended on the approval and love of your caregivers. You learned quickly that being agreeable, compliant, and helpful was the surest path to receiving that love and avoiding abandonment. Saying no, expressing a contrary opinion, or refusing a request carried the implicit risk of disapproval, anger, or withdrawal of affection, which to a child's nervous system feels like a threat to life itself. This pattern becomes deeply hardwired. As an adult, you are no longer in that dependent position, but your nervous system still runs the old software. A request is made, and your body floods with the primal fear of disapproval. Saying yes becomes an automatic reflex to alleviate the immediate anxiety of potential conflict. This is compounded by a cultural confusion between being good and being nice. We are taught that good people are selfless, that they put others first, that they do not cause friction. We therefore equate setting a boundary with being selfish, difficult, or unkind. We would rather quietly betray ourselves than risk being momentarily perceived as not nice by someone else. At its core, this habit of people-pleasing stems from an externalized sense of self-worth. If you believe your value comes from your utility to others, from their approval and validation, then your entire identity is held hostage. You become a servant to the perceptions of the world, constantly polling those around you to see who you should be today. Saying no is terrifying because it feels like you are declaring yourself worthless. This wages a constant war inside you, the war between the diplomat and the sovereign. The diplomat is the aspect of your personality that has been running the show for years. Its sole mission is to maintain external peace. It is a master negotiator, a hyper-vigilant manager of other people's emotions. It can sense a potential conflict from a mile away and will rush to smooth it over, often by sacrificing your own needs, desires, and energy. The diplomat's greatest fear is a rocked boat. It lives by the creed, "If everyone is happy with me, then I am safe." The sovereign, however, is the emerging ruler of your inner kingdom. The sovereign understands a more profound truth. True safety and stability come from internal integrity, not external approval. The sovereign's primary duty is to the health and vitality of their own realm, their physical energy, their creative wellspring, their mental peace, the quiet space needed to commune with the manuscript. The sovereign knows that a kingdom with no defined borders will be endlessly raided, its resources plundered, its people exhausted, until it eventually collapses. The sovereign is not hostile or aggressive. They are simply clear. They are calm, grounded, and unwavering in their knowledge of where their territory begins and ends. Every request from the outside world, every "can you just," every "could you please," triggers a confrontation between the panicked diplomat who wants to say yes to keep the peace, and the quiet, firm sovereign who consults the needs of the kingdom before answering. The core message, the ninth sacred truth, is that your no is what sanctifies your yes. A yes offered from a place of fear, guilt, or obligation is not a gift. It is a tax paid to avoid disapproval. It is a hollow gesture, and both you and the recipient can feel its lack of authentic energy. It is a betrayal of yourself, and it ultimately breeds resentment. It is only when you are truly free to say no that you can offer a yes that is a genuine, wholehearted gift. That yes is powerful. It is resonant. It is a true offering of your time and energy. Your no is the guardian at the gate of your sacred garden. It is not there to be cruel. It is there out of a fierce, loving devotion to the fragile, beautiful life growing within the walls. It is there to turn away the weeds of other people's drama, the pests of unreasonable demands, the draining visitors who do not respect the sanctity of your space. Saying no is an act of tending to your own soul. It is you declaring that your inner peace, your energy, and your connection to your own truth are worthy of protection. Every time you say a clear, grounded no to something that is not aligned with your truth, you are saying the most resounding, powerful yes to the manuscript within. The practice begins with creating a pause. The people-pleasing reflex is instantaneous. Your task is to interrupt it. When a request is made of you, instead of the automatic yes, train yourself to take a breath and say, "Let me get back to you on that," or "I need a moment to check my schedule," or "That's an interesting idea, let me think about it." This pause is your sanctuary. It is a buffer zone between the request and your response. In that sacred space, you can disengage the frantic diplomat and consult the wise sovereign. You can place a hand on your heart and ask, "Is this truly a yes for my kingdom? Or is this a tax I am about to pay out of fear?" Next, build your boundary muscle with low-stakes reps. Do not start by trying to say no to a manipulative family member or your demanding boss. That is the final battle. Start in the training yard. When a barista asks if you want whipped cream and you do not say, "No thank you," when a salesperson approaches and you are just browsed, say, "I'm just looking, thank you." Politely decline a social invitation that you feel obligated but not excited to attend. Each of these small acts of self-assertion is a victory. It proves to your nervous system that the world does not crumble when you honor a simple preference. It builds your tolerance for the minor discomfort of someone else's fleeting disappointment, and it shows you that this discomfort is survivable. The final and most profound practice is to consciously release responsibility for for other people's emotional reactions. This is the graduation of the sovereign. Understand this truth. You are 100% responsible for the clarity and kindness of your no. You are 0% responsible for how the other person feels about it. Their feelings, be they disappointment, anger, or frustration, belong to them. They are the product of their own stories, their own expectations, and their own relationship with hearing the word no. To believe you must manage their emotional reaction is the height of arrogance. It is to deny them the dignity of their own emotional life. Your sacred task is to state your truth calmly, cleanly, and with as much kindness as the situation allows, and then to let go. Do not over-explain, do not justify, do not apologize for having a boundary. A simple, "Thank you for asking, but I won't be able to do that," is a complete sentence. Stand firm in the quiet dignity of your decision and allow others the dignity of theirs. This is the sovereignty of number. It is the act of claiming the space and energy you need to read and to live, the divine manuscript of your one and only life. You have faced the noise of the world and the ghosts of your past. You have navigated the fog of the future and stepped out of the cage of shoulds. You have built a sanctuary of silence, discovered the still lake of awareness, entered the forge of discipline, alchemized your pain, and learned to guard your sacred garden with a sovereign no. You have done immense work. You have cleared the ground, but the world does not stop. Life will continue to bring its storms, its demands, its chaos. The winds of thought and emotion will still howl. In the midst of this unavoidable reality, you need a tool. You need a way to return in an instant to the calm, clear, sovereign space you have discovered within. You do not need to buy this tool or earn it or seek it out. You were born with it. It has been with you every second of your life, the most loyal and overlooked companion. It is your breath, and learning to use it is the 10th great truth. The breath is the primal anchor, the ever-present path back home. The mind, in its arrogance, dismisses the breath. It is too simple, too mundane, too repetitive. The ego is a connoisseur of complexity. It loves intricate problems, dramatic narratives, and sophisticated techniques. It seeks a hidden secret, a complex key to unlock enlightenment. The idea that the most profound spiritual tool is the simple, autonomic process of respiration seems like an insult to its intelligence. But this dismissal is a form of resistance, because the breath possesses a quality that the restless, time-traveling mind fears above all others. It is ruthlessly, inescapably present. You cannot breathe in the past. You cannot take a breath that is scheduled for next Thursday. You can only ever experience the breath that is happening now. To bring your full attention to the sensation of your breath is to be pulled, gently but inexorably, out of the phantom worlds of memory and anxiety, and to be planted firmly in the soil of the only moment that exists. The mind wants to wander in the labyrinth of its own creation. The breath is the thread that leads you out. It is the anchor that holds you in the safe harbor of the present moment while the storms of the mind rage on. The breath is the ultimate bridge. It is the meeting point of the conscious and the unconscious. You can breathe without thinking about it, an autonomic gift from your nervous system. Yet at any moment, you can consciously take the helm, choosing to make your breath longer, slower, deeper. In this, it is unique. It is the threshold between the world you control and the world that happens through you. It is the bridge between your physical body and your subtle, energetic self. It is the most tangible, measurable manifestation of the life force, the prana, the chi that animates you. To be disconnected from your breath is to be disconnected from your own vitality. To be intimate with your breath is to be in constant, intimate dialogue with life itself. This leads to a subtle but crucial inner conflict, the conflict between doing and undoing. As soon as we turn our attention to the breath, the doer within us, the inner project manager, wants to take over. It wants to fix the breath. It wants to perform a special technique it read about. It wants to force the breath into a certain rhythm to achieve a desired state of bliss or calm. This is still the ego trying to control reality. The true practice, the more profound and difficult practice, is one of undoing. It is the practice of letting go of all control. It is the simple, radical act of allowing the breath to be exactly as it is, shallow, deep, fast, slow, and offering it nothing but your naked, non-judgmental attention. It is not about breathing correctly. It is about attending to the breath correctly. This is an act of supreme surrender. It is you, the conscious self, humbly bowing to the innate, ancient wisdom of the body. It is trusting that life knows how to breathe through you without your interference. The core message, the 10th great truth of the manuscript, is that your breath is your anchor to reality. It is your immediate refuge. In any moment of overwhelm, any surge of panic, any spiral of obsessive thought, the path back to sanity and peace is one conscious breath away. The manuscript is not a document of the past or a prophecy of the future. It is a living text that can only be read in the now. The breath is the anchor that moors you in the now. When the ship of your mind is being tossed on a violent sea, you do not need to fight the waves. You do not need to control the wind. You simply need to drop the anchor. The storm may continue for a time, but your vessel will hold its position. It will not be swept away into the abyss. This anchor is always with you. It is weightless, it is silent, it costs nothing, and it can be deployed in an instant. It is the golden thread that connects your scattered, frantic mind back to the deep, quiet wisdom of your body. The formal practice of cultivating this anchor is simple in its instruction, but profound in its depth. Find a posture that is both dignified and relaxed. You are not a soldier on guard, nor are you a puddle on the floor. You are a mountain, solid and at ease. Allow your eyes to gently close, and then bring your awareness, like a soft spotlight, to the physical sensations of your breathing. You might choose to rest your attention at the tip of your nostrils, noticing the subtle coolness of the air as it enters and the gentle warmth as it leaves. Or you might rest your attention on the abdomen, feeling the slight expansion on the inhale and the gentle release on the exhale. Choose one spot and stay there. Your only task is to feel the raw, physical sensations. Do not judge the breath. Do not try to change it. Simply let it be and be with it. Inevitably, your mind will wander. It will be carried away by a thought, a sound, a memory. The moment you realize your mind has wandered, that is the golden moment. That is the moment of mindfulness. Do not scold yourself. That is the ego judging. Simply, and with great kindness, acknowledge where the mind went. Thinking. And then gently, lovingly, escort your attention back to the sensation of the breath. Each time you do this, you are performing one repetition of the most important exercise you will ever do. You are strengthening the muscle of attention. You are training yourself to come home. Then, you must weave this practice into the fabric of your life. Do not relegate your anchor only to the formal, silent sitting. Use it constantly. Let everyday events be your trigger. When the phone rings, let the sound be a bell of mindfulness. Take one full, conscious breath before you answer. When you walk from one room to another, feel the sensation of one inhalation as you pass through the doorway. When you feel the familiar clench of stress in your shoulders, let it be your reminder to drop the anchor for just 3 breaths. Inhale and feel the tension. Exhale and offer it release. In these moments, you are not adding another task to your day. You are infusing your day with moments of presence, of sanity, of grace. You are listening to your breath as a form of communication. It is the most honest messenger you have. It will tell you the truth of your inner state right now, beneath the lies of your frantic mind. Listen to it. Trust it. It is the rhythm of life itself, beating a steady, quiet drum in the center of your being. It is the thread that will always lead you back to the stillness where the manuscript is waiting. You are anchored in the quiet harbor of your own breath. From this place of stillness and embodiment, a new faculty begins to stir. It is a form of intelligence far older than your rational mind, a knowing that does not operate in the linear, logical language of words. it is your intuition. For most of your life, you have been taught to navigate by the well-lit, paved highways of reason and data. You have been told to trust only what can be proven, measured, and articulated. But beneath the noisy, man-made grid of your analytical mind, there has always been a deep, silent, powerful river flowing. This is the river of your intuition. It has been there all along, but you have been taught to fear the water, to ignore its steady, insistent current. The 11th great unfolding of the manuscript is to learn to trust this river. It knows the way to the sea. Our modern culture has declared war on intuition. In its righteous and often valuable quest for scientific certainty, it has dismissed this deeper knowing as primitive, as magical thinking, as feminine superstition, as dangerously unreliable. We are trained from childhood to be analytical beings. We are rewarded for making pro and con lists, for defending our positions with evidence, for building logical arguments. To say, "I did it because it just felt right," is to invite ridicule or dismissal. This creates a profound distrust of our own inner guidance system. We are afraid of being seen as foolish, flaky, or irrational. To trust your intuition is to take a naked leap of faith. It offers no external proof, no logical alibi if you are wrong. It simply offers a quiet, internal sense of yes or no. And for an ego that is terrified of making a mistake, this is an unacceptable risk. This distrust is magnified because we so often confuse pure intuition with its louder, more deceptive cousins, fear and desire. We mistake a strong feeling for a deep knowing. Fear is a loud, contracting voice. It screams about all the things that could go wrong. It is rooted in past trauma and future anxiety. Its primary message is, stay safe, avoid risk, don't change. Desire is a whining, grasping voice. It clamors for what it believes will bring pleasure or validation. Its message is, I want that. It will complete me. It will make me happy. The ego is also a loud voice, a boastful voice, driven by how things will appear to others. Its message is, this will make me look successful, important, or powerful. Intuition is utterly different. It is quiet. It is calm. It is neutral. It does not scream or whine. It does not have an emotional charge of anxiety or craving. It speaks in the calm, simple language of resonance. It is a quiet, settled knowing in your bones. It feels like coming home. It is a gentle, steady pull from the river's current, not the violent crashing of fear's waves or the desperate grasping of desire's undertow. Learning to distinguish the quiet signal of intuition from the loud noise of these other voices is the foundational work of trusting your inner guidance. This creates the inner conflict between the analyst and the oracle. The analyst is the rational part of your mind, the part our culture champions. Its job is to gather data, to weigh evidence, to assess risk, to construct logical frameworks. It lives in your head. It is a valuable and necessary tool, but it has a critical limitation. It can only work with what is already known. It can only analyze the data from the past to project a probable future. The oracle is your intuitive self. It does not operate on data. It operates on a holistic perception of patterns, of energy, of resonance. It is not limited to the past. It has access to a field of knowing that transcends linear time and logic. The oracle does not speak in spreadsheets or reports. It speaks through the body. It is the sudden clarity that drops in during a quiet walk. It is the inexplicable gut feeling. It is the sense of expansion or contraction in your chest when you consider a choice. The conflict arises when we try to solve a problem of the soul with the tools of the mind. The analyst, faced with a major life decision, can become paralyzed, endlessly debating the pros and cons, forever seeking one more piece of data to guarantee a perfect outcome. It gets caught in analysis paralysis, while the oracle has been quietly pointing the way the entire time. The core message, the 11th great truth, is that reason and intuition are not enemies. They are the two wings of a bird. You need both to fly in balance. The manuscript of your life is written in 2 languages, and you must become bilingual. Logic is the wing that builds the boat. You use your rational mind to research the options To understand the practicalities, to assess the real-world landscape, this is essential work. You do not abandon your intellect, but once the boat is built, once the analyst has done its job, you must learn to trust intuition as the compass that steers the boat. Logic can tell you how to build a sturdy vessel, but it cannot tell you which distant shore is your soul's true destination. To navigate the vast, unknown ocean of your life, you must learn to read the subtle, steady needle of your intuitive compass. The practice of integrating these two wings begins with honoring both. When faced with a decision, first, let the analyst have its say. Do the research, make the list, talk to wise counsel. Engage your magnificent brain and gather all the logical information you can. Do not skip this step. Give your rational mind the respect it deserves. Then, when the analyst has presented its case, you must create a space for the oracle to speak. This means getting quiet, meditating, taking a walk in nature. You must step away from the data and drop into your body. And in this quiet, embodied state, you can practice using your body as a tuning fork. Close your eyes. First, bring to mind option ADO. Not think about its pros and cons. Simply imagine you have already chosen it. Feel it in your body as a done deal. Then observe. What are the physical sensations? Is there a feeling of lightness in your chest? A sense of your shoulders relaxing? A quiet hum of excitement? Or is there a subtle clenching in your gut? A tightening in your throat? A feeling of heaviness, of dread? Be a neutral scientist of your own inner sensations. Then, let that go completely. And bring to mind option B. Inhabit it fully. What does this choice feel like in your body? More often than not, the body's wisdom will be shockingly clear. One path will feel expansive. The other will feel contractive. Your intuition is this felt sense of resonance. It is the simplest, most honest feedback you will ever receive. You can cultivate this faculty by starting to pay attention to the small intuitive hits you receive every day. That sudden, inexplicable urge to take a different route home. The thought of an old friend that pops into your head, followed by a text from them moments later. The quiet inner nudge to pick up a certain book or to avoid a certain conversation. Begin to keep a small journal of these moments. Note the hunch, and then note what happened. By giving these small whispers your attention and validation, you are strengthening the neural pathways of your intuition. You are telling your deepest self, I am listening now. Like any muscle, the more you trust and use it, the stronger, clearer, and more reliable its signals become. This is not about abandoning your mind. It is about expanding your intelligence. It is about learning to listen not only to the logical chatter of your mind, but also to the profound, steady wisdom of the river that flows through the very center of your being. Let your mind build the best boat it can, but let the river decide the course. You have begun to listen for the quiet signal of the river of intuition, that deep current of knowing that flows beneath the surface of your thoughts. You have learned that its guidance often speaks not in words, but in a felt sense, a resonance. Now, we must turn our full attention to the instrument through which this resonance is felt. We must turn to the most neglected, misunderstood, and yet most truthful oracle you will ever possess, your body. For centuries, we have been taught to see our bodies as separate from our true selves. We treat them as machines to be optimized, as vehicles to be decorated, as beasts of burden to be disciplined, and controlled by the superior intellect of the mind. We have made ourselves into disembodied heads, driving around a vehicle we barely understand, alternately ignoring its signals and cursing it for its breakdowns. The 12th great truth of the manuscript is that your body is not a dumb machine. It is a divine compass of immense intelligence. It is the living earth of your being, and it speaks the unwavering language of reality. The great schism of modern consciousness is the split between mind and body. This is a deep and painful wound. We objectify our bodies, standing before mirrors and judging them as if they were inanimate sculptures. We praise them when they conform to external ideals of beauty and condemn them when they do not. We see them as projects, things to be molded and perfected, not as sacred homes to be inhabited and revered. We treat their needs as inconvenient interruptions to the grand projects of the mind. We resent their need for sleep when we want to work, their need for rest when we want to play, their signals of hunger when we are trying to control our weight. When the body gets sick, when it presents us with chronic pain, we feel betrayed. We see it as a faulty mechanism that is failing us, rather than considering the profound possibility that it is sending a desperate, intelligent message that our conscious mind has refused to hear. The body is the subconscious mind made manifest. It is the vault where all of our unprocessed life experiences are stored. The tightness in your jaw is the archive of every angry word you swallowed. The knot in your shoulders is the physical residue of the burdens you have carried for others. The persistent ache in your lower back is the echo of a life lived without true support. Your body keeps a perfect, unerring score. It remembers the traumas your mind has conveniently forgotten. It holds the grief your stoicism would not allow you to feel. This creates the fundamental conflict between the head and the soma. The head is the self-appointed CEO of your life. It is the rational, analytical mind that operates on logic, schedules, and narratives. The head believes it is in charge, that it knows what is best. It is the voice that says, "I am exhausted, but I should push through and finish this project." It is the voice that says, "I feel a deep sense of dread about this social event, but I should go because it is the polite thing to do." The head constantly overrides the body's signals with the tyranny of its shoulds. The soma is the lived, felt experience of your body as a whole. It is not a concept. It is the direct perception of your own aliveness. The soma does not speak in words, but in the primal, unmistakable language of sensation, tension, release, pleasure, pain, vitality, fatigue, expansion, contraction. The soma holds the unvarnished truth of your present moment reality. It knows on a cellular level what you truly need, what is nourishing for you, and what is toxic. The conflict is the story of our lives. The loud, insistent shouting of the head drowning out the quiet, persistent wisdom of the soma. We live from the neck up, exiles from our own homeland, wondering why we feel so disconnected and exhausted. We have ignored the most reliable oracle in the universe. The core message, the 12th great truth, is this: your body cannot lie. Your mind is a master storyteller, a brilliant lawyer capable of rationalizing any behavior, a cunning magician of self-deception. Your body has no such capacity. It is a direct, unfiltered reflection of your inner state and your relationship to the world around you. Learning to read the language of your body is to gain access to the most reliable guidance system you will ever have. It is to learn to read the living manuscript of your own being. This is the divine compass. A compass does not think. It does not have opinions. It does not judge. It simply and unfailingly points to magnetic north. Your body is this compass. Its north is your personal truth, that which is aligned, authentic, and life-affirming for you. A state of physical relaxation, vitality, openness, and ease is the compass needle pointing directly north. You are in alignment. A state of tension, illness, chronic fatigue, or pain is the compass needle spinning wildly. It is a clear, unmistakable signal that something in your life, a job, a relationship, a belief system, a habitus, pulling you away from your own true north. The practice of learning to read this compass begins with the body scan, reframed not as a simple relaxation exercise, but as an act of sacred listening. Lie down in a quiet space and close your eyes. Begin by bringing your full, gentle attention to the tips of your toes. Do not try to change what you find. Simply illuminate this small part of your body with the soft light of your awareness. What are the raw sensations present? Tingling, warmth, numbness, pressure? Simply notice. Then slowly, methodically, begin to move this spotlight of attention up through your body, your feet, your ankles, your calves, your knees. Linger for a moment in each place, not as a judge, but as a compassionate witness. You are not looking for problems to fix. You are simply becoming literate in the language of your own body. You are reading the ancient book of yourself, one word, one sentence at a time. As you scan, you will notice areas of tension, of holding, of numbness. These are the passages that require a closer reading. When you discover a place of chronic tension or a persistent ache, the next practice is to enter into a gentle dialogue with it. Let us say you find a familiar, hard knot in your right shoulder. Your old habit would be to resent it, to try to stretch it away, to treat it as an enemy. The new practice is to treat it as a wise, albeit suffering, messenger. Bring your full awareness into the center of the sensation, breathe into it, then, silently, inwardly, ask it questions. What are you holding for me? What is the story you carry? What do you need from me that I have not been giving you? Do not expect an answer in clear, articulate sentences. The answers of the Soma come in different forms. You might get a flash of a memory, an image, a feeling, or simply a subtle, energetic shift in the sensation itself. You are practicing somatic archaeology, gently brushing away the dust of years of neglect to uncover the truth stored in the very tissues of your being. With this newfound literacy, you can begin to use your body as the ultimate consultant in all your life decisions. When faced with a choice, after you have done your mental analysis, bring the options to the body. Sit quietly. Imagine you have made the first choice. Embody it. What happens in your compass? Do you feel a subtle opening, an expansion, a flow of energy? Or do you feel a clenching, a draining, a sinking feeling? Then, release it and embody the second choice. Feel its somatic signature, the body's first unfiltered response before the mind has time to argue, is the compass needle pointing you toward your truth. It is the voice of the manuscript, written not in ink, but in the language of sinew, cell, and sensation. To listen to it is to finally come home to the whole of yourself, to trust the wisdom of the living earth that you are. You have learned to inhabit your body as a compass, to trust the guidance of its subtle sensations. This growing embodiment, this deep connection to your own living reality, naturally gives rise to one of the most profound human questions. Why? Why am I here? What is the purpose of all this? In our culture, this question launches us on a frantic, external search. We hunt for our purpose as if it is a hidden object, a specific job title, a singular calling, a treasure chest that, once found, will solve all our problems and validate our existence. This search, born of a sense of lack, almost always ends in exhaustion and disappointment. The 13th great truth of the manuscript reveals a radical reorientation. Purpose is not a destination you must find. It is an inner sun you must learn to tend. It is not a what that you do, but a why that you inhabit. You do not discover your purpose. You uncover it right where you are. You do not find the light. You learn to radiate it. The modern obsession with finding your purpose is a source of immense anxiety. We are burdened by the myth of the one thing, the belief that each of us has a single, grand, predestined role to play, and if we fail to identify it, our life is meaningless. This turns our existence into a high-stakes guessing game, filling us with the dread of choosing the wrong path. We compound this error by confusing purpose with profession. We believe our purpose must be something we get paid for, something that can be printed on a business card. This dramatically narrows the field of possibility and devalues the infinite ways a life can be purposeful outside the confines of a career. A person's purpose might be to create a space of sanctuary for their family, to be a steadfast and loving friend, to cultivate beauty in a small garden, to bear witness to the suffering of others with compassion. These are profound purposes that will never appear on a resume. Finally, we are seduced by the destination fallacy belief that once we find our purpose, life will become effortless and blissful. But purpose does not eliminate challenge. It gives us the strength to meet the challenge. It does not promise a life without pain. It provides the why that allows us to endure the pain. This frantic external search is a way of outsourcing your own meaning. It stems from the inner conflict between the seeker and the radiator. The seeker is the part of you that believes the answer is always out there. Driven by a sense of inner lack, the seeker is on a perpetual quest. It seeks the perfect job, the perfect partner, the perfect spiritual teaching that will finally fill the void within. The seeker's energy is always moving outward, scanning the horizon, asking the world, what can you give me to make me feel whole? The radiator is the deeper, more sovereign self. The radiator understands that meaning is not something you find, but something you generate. It knows that purpose is an internal source of light and warmth. Its energy is directed inward, not to fill a void, but to tend to an inner flame, to stoke the embers of what makes it feel alive. The radiator's primary question is not, what can I get, but what can I give? What can I radiate from this place of inner fullness? The journey of the manuscript is the gradual, profound shift from a life of seeking to a life of radiating. The core message, the 13th luminous truth, is that purpose is a quality of presence, not a destination. It is a verb, not a noun. It is the conscious why that you bring to the what of your life. And this why does not have to be grandiose. A grand why might be to alleviate suffering on the planet. A humble and equally valid why might be to bring a moment of kindness into every interaction I have today. You don't need to wait for a lightning bolt of cosmic revelation. You can choose your purpose in this very moment. You can decide that your purpose for the next hour is to listen to a friend with your whole being. You can decide that your purpose while washing the dishes is to appreciate the simple miracle of clean, running water. This is the secret of the inner Sunday. Your purpose is the sun at the center of your personal solar system. Your job, your family, your hobbies, your chores, these are the planets. Without the sun, they are just cold, dark rocks drifting in the void. A job is just a series of tasks. A family is just a group of people. But when you ignite the inner sun of purpose, its light and warmth infuse everything. The job, illuminated by the purpose of mastering a craft or being of service, becomes meaningful. The family, illuminated by the purpose of cultivating love and connection, becomes a sacred space. The mundane act of washing the dishes, illuminated by the purpose of creating order and peace, becomes a meditative practice. The goal is not to find a special planet named purpose. The goal is to ignite the sun within, which then gives light, life, and meaning to all the planets in your orbit. To begin tending this inner sun, you must shift your questions. Instead of the vast, intimidating question, what is my one true purpose? Ask smaller, more intimate questions rooted in the compass of your body. Ask, what makes me feel most alive? What activities, people, or ideas give me a sense of expansion and energy? When do I lose track of time, so absorbed in what I am doing that my sense of self falls away? What did I love to do as a child before the world told me what I should be? What would I do even if I never got paid for it and no one ever knew I was doing it? Sit with these questions. Journal on them. Don't look for a single definitive answer. Look for themes. Look for patterns. These are the clues to what fuels your inner sun. They are the kindling for your fire. From these clues, begin to identify your core verbs. Let go of the need for a noun-based identity. You do not have to be a writer. Perhaps your core verb is to explore, or to illuminate, or to connect. These verbs are portable. You can bring the purpose of exploring to your writing, but also to a walk in the woods, to a conversation with a stranger, to learning a new recipe. This frees your purpose from being held captive by a single role. It becomes a quality of being that you can bring to every aspect of your life. You are no longer searching for the one right box to fit into. You are learning to radiate your unique quality of light into every room you enter. Finally, practice the art of purposeful intention. You can ignite your inner sun at will. Before you begin a simple, mundane task, pause, take one conscious breath, and set a silent intention. My purpose in this meeting is to listen more than I speak. My purpose in this workout is to celebrate what my body can do, not to punish it. My purpose in this difficult conversation is to stay connected to my own heart. This is the practice in its most direct form. It is the conscious choice to infuse the ordinary with the extraordinary light of your why. It is the understanding that purpose is not something that happens to you when you finally get the right job or move to the right city. Purpose is what you bring to the job you have now, in the city you are in now. It is a choice you make and remake in every precious moment. It is the warmth of your own sun on your own skin right now. You have begun to tend the inner sun of your purpose, to feel its warmth, to orient your life by its light. You have a direction, a why that fuels you. And here, precisely at the moment you feel you have a map, the journey presents you with its most profound paradox. The 14th great truth of the manuscript is this: the more clearly you know your destination, the more gracefully you must learn to let go of the path. You must learn the sacred art of surrender. This is not the passive resignation of defeat. It is the active, courageous, and supremely intelligent practice of letting go. It is the wisdom of the sailor who, knowing their destination, does not try to row against the wind, but instead skillfully adjusts the sails to catch its invisible power. You must learn to trust the wind of letting go. Our ego is a master strategist, a control enthusiast. It operates under the profound illusion that it is the sole author of our lives, that with enough effort, willpower, and meticulous planning, it can bend reality to its desires. This is the white-knuckle approach to existence. We grip our plans, our expectations, our relationships, our identities so tightly, believing that our grip is the only thing keeping them from falling apart. We create rigid 5-year plans and then are shattered when life, in its infinite and unpredictable wisdom, presents a detour. This desperate need for control is rooted in a deep fear of the unknown and a fundamental misunderstanding of surrender. We have been taught to equate surrender with giving up. Giving up is an act of despair. It is the bitter resignation of a strategist whose plans have failed. It is dropping your tools, admitting defeat, and collapsing in a state of powerlessness. Surrender is the opposite. Surrender is an act of supreme trust and strength. It is the conscious recognition that your personal will is a small, finite wave in a vast, intelligent ocean. Surrender is the wisdom of ceasing to struggle against the ocean's current and instead aligning yourself with its powerful, deep-running flow. It is not an admission of weakness, it is an alignment with a greater strength. This is the inner conflict between the strategist and the dancer. The strategist, the part of your ego mind that you have been trained to value, believes life is a chess game against a formidable opponent. It is always calculating, anticipating, planning 3 moves ahead. It sees every situation as a problem to be solved, an obstacle to be overcome. The strategist is tense, rigid, and lives in a constant state of low-grade anxiety because it knows it cannot possibly control all the variables. The dancer, the part of your soul that this journey is awakening, knows a different truth. The dancer knows that life is not a chess game, but a dance. The goal is not to win, but to move in harmony with the music of the moment. The dancer does not try to lead its partner, which is reality itself. It listens, it feels, it responds. It is fluid, present, and trusts the flow. The strategist wants to force a pre-written choreography onto the dance floor. The dancer is willing to improvise, to be led, to be surprised. Your life, up to this point, has likely been run by the strategist. The invitation of the manuscript is to let the dancer take the lead. The core message, the 14th great truth, is that your greatest strength lies not in your grip, but in your grace of release. The universe is not a hostile force to be conquered. It is a dynamic, intelligent flow. Your effort, your discipline, your will, these are all essential. They are what you use to build a strong, seaworthy vessel. But once your boat is in the water, trying to row against a powerful tide is an act of foolishness that will only lead to exhaustion and ruin. The highest wisdom is to use your energy to read the tides, to feel the wind, and to align your vessel with these powerful, unseen forces. It is to trust that the current is, in its own mysterious way, carrying you toward the ocean of your purpose, often via a route your logical mind could never have conceived. This is the wisdom of the autumn tree. In the fall, a tree does not desperately cling to its leaves, fearing the bareness of winter. It does not see the falling leaves as a failure. It engages in a profound act of trust. It lets go. It releases what is no longer serving its life, what has completed its season. It understands that this surrender is not death, but a necessary prerequisite for the quiet gestation of winter and the explosive rebirth of spring. We, too, must learn to be autumn trees, gracefully releasing the relationships, the jobs, the beliefs, and the identities that have completed their season in our lives, trusting that this emptiness is not an end, but a necessary clearing for what is yet to come. The practice of this wisdom begins with a clear-eyed assessment of reality. Draw 2 concentric circles. In the small inner circle, write down the things that are truly within your sphere of control. Be ruthless in your honesty. You will find the list is very short. It includes your attitude, your effort, your responses, the words you choose to speak, the way you treat others, your choice of what to focus on. This is your kingdom. This is where your power lies. Now, in the much larger outer circle, write down all the things you worry about but have absolutely no direct control over. The outcomes of your efforts, other people's opinions of you, the timing of life events, the economy, who is in power, whether someone loves you back. The practice is to make a sacred vow to yourself. I will pour all of my precious life force, my energy, my attention into the inner circle, and I will practice the art of releasing everything in the outer circle to a power greater than myself. This is not apathy. It is the most intelligent strategy you can employ. It is the conservation and focused application of your power. To embody this, practice the meditation of the open hands. Sit quietly. For 1 minute, clench your fists as tightly as you possibly can. Feel the tension in your fingers, your wrists, your forearms. Feel the strain, the effort, the subtle vibration of holding on. This is the somatic signature of control, of clinging, of resistance. Be intimate with this feeling. It is your habitual state. Then, with a long, slow exhalation, deliberately and gracefully open your hands. Unfurl your fingers one by one. Turn your palms upward on your lap in the universal gesture of receptivity and release. Feel the immediate rush of blood, the relief, the sense of ease. This is the feeling of surrender. Remain in this state of open-handedness. This simple physical act teaches your entire nervous system the profound difference between the strain of clinging and the grace of letting go. Finally, become a student of surrender in the natural world. Go outside with the sole intention of finding examples of letting go. Watch how a river flows effortlessly around a large boulder, not fighting it, but embracing it as part of its path. Watch how the clouds in the sky drift and morph, never trying to hold a particular shape. Watch a spider release its thread to the wind, trusting it will catch somewhere to begin its web. Nature is the supreme master of this art. It does not resist what is. It flows with it. It adapts. It yields. It surrenders. In its surrender, it finds its indomitable strength. Your own path is no different. The manuscript of your life is not a rigid blueprint to be forced upon the world. It is a melody to be danced to, a current to be flowed with, a wind to be caught in the open sails of your surrendered heart. Open your hands, let go of what is already gone, and feel the thrilling, terrifying, and ultimately liberating sensation of being carried. You have learned to let go, to surrender your fragile boat to the great, intelligent current of life. You have adjusted your sails to catch the wind, but the wind may not be a gale. The current may lead you for a time into a quiet, slow-moving pool. After the great release, there often comes a great stillness, and in this stillness, a new and subtle form of impatience begins to sprout. It is the demand for visible results, the anxiety of unseen progress. You have planted the seed of your new self, and now you are tempted to dig it up every morning to see if it has grown roots. The 15th great truth of the manuscript asks of you a new kind of courage, the humility of the seed. It is the wisdom to understand that the most profound and essential transformations happen in the dark, in silence, long before any evidence of new life breaks the surface. Our culture is at war with this truth. We are the children of instant gratification. Our technology has rewired our brains to expect immediate feedback for every action. We send a message, and we see that it is delivered, that it is read. We post a thought, and we watch the validation accumulate in real time. This has conditioned us to have an extremely low tolerance for slow, invisible, and organic processes. We have forgotten the wisdom of the farmer and adopted the mindset of the day trader. This is compounded by the curated reality we consume, the endless highlight reel of other people's lives. We see the triumphant summit photo, but not the grueling, solitary 6-month climb. We see the best-selling novel, but not the 10 years of quiet rejection and painstaking revision. We see the outcome, never the process. This creates a deeply distorted perception of reality, a belief that growth should be fast, linear, and always visible. This fosters a deep fear of being left behind, a frantic anxiety that if we are not producing tangible results, we are stagnating, we are failing, and so we pull on the sprout, trying to force it to grow faster. And in doing so, we risk severing the very roots that are its lifeline. This is the inner conflict between the performer and the gardener. The performer lives for the stage, for the audience, for the applause. It needs external validation to feel that its efforts are real and worthwhile. The performer is the part of you that wants to post about your new meditation practice, that wants to tell everyone about the breakthrough you had, that wants to be seen as someone who is doing the work. When the work is silent, when the growth is internal and invisible, the performer panics. It feels like it is acting in an empty theater. It starts to doubt if the play is even happening. What's the point of all this effort if nothing is changing on the outside? The gardener, on the other hand, has an entirely different relationship with the process. The gardener finds a deep and abiding satisfaction not just in the eventual harvest, but in the sacred, daily acts of tending. The gardener knows that its role is not to command the seed to grow, but to create the optimal conditions for growth. It diligently prepares the soil, it provides the water, it protects the small patch of earth, and then it trusts. It has a profound faith in the mysterious, miraculous, and completely invisible process that is happening in the darkness of the soil. The gardener knows that the most critical work, the cracking of the hard shell, the sending out of the first tentative root, the gathering of nutrients all happens where no one can see it. Your journey is to gently thank the performer for its desire to be seen, and then to let the patient, wise, and humble gardener become the true steward of your soul. The core message, the 15th great truth, is that your growth is not a performance, it is a germination. The periods in your life when you feel the most stuck, the most stagnant, when it seems like all your efforts are yielding no results, are often the most vital phases of your transformation. This is your time in the soil. This is the sacred darkness where your roots are taking hold, anchoring you in your new truth, drawing in the nourishment you will need for the growth that is to come. To demand constant, visible progress is to misunderstand the fundamental nature of life. Life is cyclical. It has its seasons, and a season of quiet, underground rooting is a non-negotiable part of the cycle. You must learn to trust the dark. You must learn to have faith in the unseen alchemy. The seed does not need your anxious supervision. It needs your patient trust. It needs the humility to be left alone in the quiet, fertile darkness. The practice of this humility begins with reframing your perception of these quiet times. When you feel impatient, when the performer within you is screaming for results, consciously and lovingly name the experience. Say to yourself, I am in the soil now. This is the time for rooting. My work is not to bloom, but to grow in the dark. This is not a passive resignation. It is an active and conscious alignment with the necessary rhythm of growth. It is an expression of faith. It replaces the frantic energy of anxiety with the calm, grounded energy of trust. You must also shift your focus from celebrating the output to celebrating the input. Your job is not to measure the sprout, Your job is to remember to water the seed. At the end of each day, instead of judging your progress by what you have accomplished or what has visibly changed, acknowledge and celebrate your faithfulness to the process. Today, I watered the seed by staying with my breath for 5 minutes. Today, I tended the soil by saying a kind no. Today, I honored the darkness by allowing myself to rest when I was tired. This practice relocates the source of your satisfaction. It moves it from the unpredictable world of external results, which you do not control, to the reliable world of your own integrity and effort, which you do control. This builds a deep sense of self-respect that is not dependent on applause. Finally, you must learn to honor the wisdom of winter. Our culture worships the spring of new beginnings and the summer of peak productivity. It fears the autumn of release and despises the winter of rest. We see our inner winters the times when we feel tired, uninspired, withdrawn, and fallow as signs of depression or failure. We try to push through them, to force ourselves to be productive when our soul is calling for deep rest. This is a profound violence against ourselves. Winter is not the absence of life. It is a different, essential phase of life. It is the time when the soil regenerates. It is the time when the deep, unseen work of integration happens. Rest is not the opposite of action. It is a vital part of the cycle of action. When your being calls for winter, your most purposeful and productive act is to surrender to it. It is to rest without guilt. It is to trust that, just as in nature, the quiet frozen stillness of winter is the necessary precondition for the vibrant, explosive life of spring. Be the seed. Surrender to your season. Trust the darkness. The manuscript of your life is not a short story. It is a long and patient novel with chapters of quiet rooting that make the eventual blooming not only possible, but inevitable. You have learned the humility of the seed, the wisdom of trusting the slow, invisible process of your own becoming. You have found the courage to wait in the fertile darkness while your roots take hold. But this profound patience can only be sustained by one thing: a deep and radical acceptance of the seed itself. If you are constantly judging the seed for not yet being a flower, if you are berating the soil for not working faster, your trust will curdle into anxiety. You will sabotage the very growth you are trying to nurture. We must therefore arrive at the 16th great truth of the manuscript, the truth that is the very firmament of this entire journey. It is the practice of unconditional self-acceptance. This entire path is not a self-improvement project designed to fix a broken you. You are not broken. You are unfolding. The purpose of reading the manuscript is not to correct your flaws, but to finally meet yourself with a boundless and unconditional love. It is to become the sky for your own weather. The air of our inner world is thick with the smog of self-judgment. We are ruled by a relentless inner critic, a shadowy commentator who has been narrating our lives since childhood. This voice is a master of comparison, pointing out all the ways we fall short. It is an obsessive archivist of our past mistakes, replaying our failures on an endless loop. It is the internalized voice of every critical parent, every demanding teacher, every societal standard we ever failed to meet. We have mistaken this harsh, conditioned voice for the voice of truth, and we have allowed it to become the arbiter of our self-worth. Under the tyranny of this inner critic, we develop a transactional relationship with ourselves. We place our own love on conditional deposit. I will love myself when I lose the weight. I will accept myself when I get the promotion. I will be proud of myself when I am no longer anxious or sad or messy. Self-worth becomes a moving target, a perpetually receding horizon. We turn our own lives into a desperate performance for an unpleasable judge, our own self. This creates a paradox that lies at the heart of all personal growth. We believe we must hate ourselves into changing. We believe that if we just shame ourselves enough, criticize ourselves enough, whip ourselves into shape, we will finally become the person we want to be. This is like trying to build a beautiful house on a foundation of toxic sludge. The very act of self-rejection creates so much internal stress, resistance, and shame that it sabotages any possibility of lasting integrated change. True change can only ever sprout from the fertile soil of acceptance. You must first be willing to meet yourself with compassion and with honesty, exactly where you are. You cannot find the path to a new land if you refuse to accept the reality of where you are currently standing. Acceptance is not giving up. It is the courageous act of starting from what is real. This is the inner conflict between the fixer and the friend. The fixer is the part of your ego that has been running the show. It views you as a problem to be solved. You are a flawed machine, a project full of bugs that need to be patched. The fixer is armed with a long list of your defects, and it approaches you with the cold, detached air of a mechanic who is vaguely disgusted by the state of the engine. The fixer's motivation is a deep, abiding dissatisfaction with what is. It believes that you are fundamentally not okay, and its entire purpose is to whip you into a state of okayness. The friend is the emerging voice of your soul, your compassionate awareness. The friend does not see a project to be fixed. It sees a human being who is trying their best. It sees your imperfections not as flaws, but as part of your unique story. The friend understands that you are struggling, and it offers you the same warmth, the same encouragement, the same unwavering support you would offer to a person you love dearly. When you fail, the fixer screams, "You idiot, you'll never learn." The friend whispers, "That was difficult. You are okay. What can we learn from this? Let's try again tomorrow." The journey of the manuscript is the practice of gently firing the fixer and hiring the friend as the new CEO of your inner world. The core message, the 16th great truth, is that acceptance is the page upon which your life story is written. Without it, the ink of your experiences cannot hold. It is the foundational act of grace you grant yourself. It is not resignation. It is not saying, "I am flawed and I will never change." It is saying, "I am flawed and I am worthy of love and respect right now, in this very moment, exactly as I am." It is from this radical starting point of worthiness that the energy for true change is born. You are no longer trying to change to become worthy. You are changing as a natural expression of the worthiness you already possess. This is the wisdom of the sky. Your true self, your awareness, is the vast, open sky. Your personality, your thoughts, your emotions, your strengths, and your weaknesses, these are the weather. Some days are sunny and clear. Some days are turbulent and stormy. Some days are gray and overcast. The sky does not fight the storm. The sky does not judge the clouds. The sky does not desperately cling to the sunshine. It does not condemn itself for a cloudy day. It provides a vast, silent, unconditional, and loving space for all of it to pass through. Your practice is to cease identifying with the ever-changing weather of your personality and to begin identifying with the eternal, accepting sky of your own awareness. The practice of becoming the sky for your own weather begins with the courageous act of looking in the mirror. Not to catalog your flaws, but to meet yourself. Stand before the mirror, take a deep breath, and look directly into your own eyes. See the person there, not the object. See the history, the pain, the hope, and offer a simple statement of truce. It might be, "I am willing to be on your side." It might be, "I accept you right at this moment." It might simply be a silent offering of peace. This will feel deeply uncomfortable at first. The inner critic will scream that it is a lie. Do it anyway. You are planting a new seed. You are carving a new neural pathway. You are beginning to treat yourself as a friend, not a foe. Deepen this practice by consciously changing your inner dialogue. The next time you make a mistake, the moment the voice of the fixer begins its usual tirade, pause. Ask yourself this question. If my dearest friend came to me with this exact problem, what would I say to them? You would not berate them. You would offer compassion, perspective, and encouragement. Now, turn that voice inward. Say those exact kind words to yourself. Write them down in a journal as a letter to yourself. You must become your own most loving friend because you are the only person who is with you for every single moment of your life. Finally, practice dissolving the illusion that you are uniquely flawed through the meditation of shared humanity. When you are feeling particularly mired in your own imperfections, look at the people around you, strangers on the street. colleagues at work, and silently repeat to yourself, just like me, this person has known sadness. Just like me, this person has fears. Just like me, this person has made mistakes they regret. Just like me, they are doing the best they can with what they know. This practice is a powerful antidote to the shame that thrives on a sense of isolation. It reconnects you to the vast, imperfect, and beautiful family of humankind. Imperfection is not your personal failing. It is the universal human condition. To accept it in yourself and in others is to finally come to peace with reality. It is to become the boundless, compassionate sky, capable of holding your own precious human life with a love that has no conditions. You have begun to inhabit the vast, unconditional sky of self-acceptance. You are learning to hold all your own weather, the storms, the clouds, the sun with a gentle, loving awareness. This profound act of inner friendship is the foundation for the next great spiritual adventure. The courage to be a beginner. Once you truly accept that you are worthy, even in your imperfection, you are finally free to be imperfect publicly. You are free to be clumsy, to be awkward, to not know. You are free to learn. In a world that worships the expert, that fetishizes mastery, and scorns the fumbling first steps, choosing to be a beginner is a radical act of rebellion. It is the 17th great truth of the manuscript. Your growth is not determined by what you know, but by your willingness to embrace what you do not. Our fear of being a beginner is a direct manifestation of the ego's terror of dissolution. The ego builds its fragile identity, its very sense of self, on a foundation of competence and knowledge. I am a good writer. I am a skilled manager. I am someone who understands politics. These pillars of expertise feel solid and safe. To enter a new domain where you know nothing is to voluntarily step away from these pillars. It is to enter a state of not knowing, which to the ego feels like a state of not being. It is a small death. This existential fear is amplified by a more common social fear, the fear of judgment. We are terrified of looking foolish. We would rather remain in the cramped but familiar comfort zone of our existing skills than risk the perceived humiliation of fumbling with a new one in front of others. The memory of every critical teacher, every laughing peer, rises up and warns us against the vulnerability of the first attempt. This fear is particularly acute as we get older. We become accustomed to the smooth, effortless feeling of competence in our chosen fields. To then feel the profound awkwardness of a beginner to strike the wrong chord on a guitar, to mispronounce a word in a new language, to fall over in a yoga posecon feels so uncomfortable, so jarring, that we retreat back to the safety of what we have already mastered. We forget the pure joy of learning and feel only the sting of not being good yet. This is the inner conflict between the expert and the student. The expert is the identity that you cling to. It is the persona that has all the answers, the one who is in control. The expert is safe, respected, and deeply comfortable. Its primary mission is to protect its status. It will actively avoid any situation that might expose its ignorance. The mind of the expert is, by definition, a closed mind. It cannot learn because it believes it already knows. The student, on the other hand, is the eternally curious spirit of your soul. The student is humble. It is open. It is thrilled by the vastness of what it does not know. The student sees a new subject not as a test to be passed, but as a wondrous landscape to be explored. It is not afraid to say, "I don't know," because it understands that these are the three most powerful words for opening a door to new wisdom. The student is not afraid of making mistakes, because it knows that mistakes are simply data points on the path of learning. The mind of the student is what Zen calls beginner's mind, a mind that is fresh, open, and full of possibility. Your life up to now has been a project to enthrone the expert. The path of the manuscript is the joyful dethroning of the expert and the liberation of the eternal student within. The core message, the 17th great truth, is that true wisdom is not a destination you arrive at. It is not a library of accumulated facts. True wisdom is the perpetual, courageous willingness to be a beginner. The moment you declare yourself an expert, the learning stops. The growth ceases. You have encased yourself in the amber of your own knowledge. The manuscript of your life is not a dusty, leather-bound volume that you have already read and memorized. It is a fresh, crisp, blank page presented to you each and every morning. The courage to be a beginner is the courage to face that beautiful, terrifying emptiness and make a mark, to write the first sentence of the day without knowing how the paragraph will unfold. It is the understanding that life is not a performance to be perfected, but an experiment to be lived. This requires you to reframe your entire relationship with knowledge and skill. Imagine your current expertise as a safe, familiar cliff edge. You know every rock, every plant, the view is predictable. To learn something new, to become a beginner, is to deliberately take one step off that cliff into the open air. It is a leap of faith into the unknown. All the safety is on the cliff edge, but all the adventure, all the growth, all the new vistas are in the air. You must trust that you will learn to fly on the way down. The practice of taking this leap begins with 3 liberating words. I don't know. Begin to use this phrase as a mantra of freedom. When you feel the internal pressure to have an opinion, to provide an answer, to posture as an expert, give yourself the gift of saying, silently or aloud, I don't know. Notice the immediate release of tension. These 3 words are not a confession of failure. They are a declaration of openness. They are an invitation for new information, new perspectives, and new wisdom to enter the space you have just created. Next, consciously choose a low-stakes arena in which to practice your clumsiness. Intentionally choose to learn something that is completely unrelated to your professional life, something where you have zero pressure to be good. If you are a brilliant scientist, take a dance class. If you are a compassionate therapist, try learning a martial art. If you are a competitive athlete, try writing poetry. The goal is not to master this new skill. The goal is to become intimate with the feeling of being a beginner again. Feel the awkwardness. Feel the frustration. Feel the tiny spark of joy when you get one small thing right. You are retraining your nervous system to understand that incompetence is not a threat. It is simply the starting point of learning. You are reawakening the spirit of play. To overcome the immense inertia that often prevents us from starting something new, employ the practice of the 5-minute dabble. Let go of the grandiose goal. You are not learning to play the guitar. That is too intimidating for the expert ego to handle. You are simply touching the strings for 5 minutes. You are not writing a screenplay. You are playing with dialogue for 5 minutes. By framing the activity as a short, low-stakes, playful exploration, you give the inner student permission to show up without the pressure of performance. More often than not, the 5 minutes will stretch into 10 or 30 because the joy of exploration will eclipse the fear of incompetence. You are not climbing a mountain. You are just taking the first easy step on a fascinating new path. Let go of the need to be the master. The master is a monument, beautiful but static. Be the student. The student is a river, always moving, always learning, always alive. This is the secret to a life of endless growth and wonder. The manuscript is open to a blank page. Pick up your pen. You have embraced the open, humble, and curious spirit of the beginner's mind. You have stepped off the cliff of your own expertise and chosen to see the world anew. And what is the first quality of sight that this fresh perspective reveals? It is wonder. The beginner does not take things for granted. Everything is novel. Everything is a marvel. This state of wonder is the native soil of gratitude. We now arrive at the 18th great truth, a practice so simple it is often dismissed, and yet so powerful it can fundamentally alter the entire texture of your reality. It is the practice of attuning your life to the resonance of gratitude. This is not about politeness. It is not about forcing yourself to say thank you. It is about consciously recalibrating your entire perceptual apparatus from a mode of seeking what is missing to a mode of celebrating what is present. It is the art of learning to read the manuscript of your life with golden ink. The human mind is, by default, an instrument tuned to the frequency of lack. This is not a personal failing. It is a feature of our evolutionary hardware. For our ancient ancestors, survival depended on an acute awareness of threats and deficiencies. Remembering the one time a berry was poisonous was far more important than remembering the 1,000 times it was delicious. Remembering the sound of the predator was more crucial than remembering the beauty of the sunrise. This ancient survival mechanism, the negativity bias, is still running the show in our modern skulls. Our minds are like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive ones. They are exquisitely designed to scan the environment for problems, for what is wrong, for what is missing. This fosters a deep and pervasive mindset of scarcity. We live our lives from a place of not enough time, not enough money, not enough love, not enough success. Our mind becomes a relentless accountant, constantly auditing our life and finding it in deficit. This is the inner conflict between the accountant and the poet. The accountant is the voice of your conditioned, survival-oriented mind. It keeps a running ledger of grievances, disappointments, and lacks. The accountant can look at a life filled with blessings and fixate on the one thing that is not perfect. It can experience a day of 99% peace and 1% frustration, and at the end of the day, the only entry in its journal is the frustration. The accountant's work is never done because its job is to find the deficit, and it can always find one. The poet, however, is the voice of your awakened soul. The poet is not concerned with ledgers. It is concerned with beauty, with meaning, with wonder. The poet can look at the exact same life and see a symphony of grace. It can look at a wilting flower and see the profound, melancholic beauty of impermanence. It can experience a difficult day and cherish the one small moment of genuine connection as a priceless jewel. The poet understands that life is not a balance sheet to be audited, but a mystery to be savored. Your practice is to gently fire the hypercritical accountant and promote the wise, appreciative poet to be the chief narrator of your life. The core message, the 18th great truth, is that gratitude is not the result of a perfect life, but the cause of a joyous one. We have it backwards. We believe that when we finally get everything we want, then we will feel grateful. But the universe doesn't work that way. Gratitude is the prerequisite, not the reward. It is a conscious, willed act of tuning. Your being is a musical instrument. If your strings are tuned to the frequency of complaint, resentment, and lack, you will only be able to perceive and resonate with those same discordant notes in the world around you. You will literally be deaf to the music of grace. Gratitude is the act of picking up a tuning fork, a fork precisely calibrated to the frequency of abundance, and striking it. As you hold this vibrating fork of a grateful thought to the instrument of your being, your own inner strings begin to hum with that same harmonious frequency. You start to see the blessings that were there all along. You start to feel the support that was always present. You attune yourself to reality, and in doing so, you discover that reality is far more generous than your scarcity-minded accountant ever led you to believe. The manuscript of your life will inevitably contain passages of sorrow and difficulty. Gratitude is the golden ink that allows you to read those passages and find the hidden lessons, the strength you gained, the compassion you learned. It does not erase the difficulty, it illuminates the meaning within it. The practice of tuning begins with a simple daily ritual. At the end of each day, take a journal and write down 3 specific things for which you are grateful. Specificity is the key. Do not write, "I am grateful for my family." That is a concept. Write, "I am grateful for the quiet way my daughter held my hand today." Do not write, "I am grateful for nature." That is an abstraction. Write, "I am grateful for the feeling of the warm sun on my face for 5 minutes this afternoon." This practice forces your brain to move from lazy concepts to lived sensory reality. It trains your reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters information, to start actively scanning your day for gifts instead of threats. You are consciously retraining yourself to become a benefit detector. A more advanced practice is to bring gratitude to your challenges. When you are faced with a difficult person, a frustrating obstacle, or a painful emotion, after you have met it with presence and compassion, there is another step. You can, with immense courage, Whisper to the universe, "Thank you for this. This is not an act of masochism. You are not thanking the situation for being painful. You are expressing a profound trust in the alchemical process of your own life. You are thanking the universe for bringing you the exact, challenging ingredient you need for your next stage of soul growth. You are thanking the fire for its heat, knowing it is forging your sword. You are thanking the storm for its rain, knowing it is watering your roots. This is the gratitude of the spiritual warrior. You can also ground this practice in the raw miracle of your senses. Choose one sense and devote 5 minutes to experiencing the world through it with an attitude of pure gratitude. For 5 minutes, just listen. Hear the hum of electricity, the ticking of a clock, the distant traffic. Do not label them as good or bad sounds. Simply receive them as the soundtrack of an alive world and feel a sense of wonder that you possess the intricate biological gift of hearing. Or take one bite of food and for that one bite, be fully present. Taste its complexity, feel its texture, and consider, with gratitude, the sun, the soil, the rain, the farmer, the truck driver, and the grocery clerk, the entire vast, interconnected web of existence that had to conspire to bring you this single, nourishing moment. This is not a platitude. This is the deepest truth. The world is saturated with grace. Gratitude is simply the act of adjusting your eyes to see it. It is the tuning fork that makes your heart resonate with the symphony that is always playing. It is the ink that makes the entire manuscript of your life shine. You have attuned your being to the frequency of gratitude, learning to see the world not through the lens of what is missing, but with the eyes of wonder at what is present. This gratitude naturally opens the heart. An open heart, full of appreciation, yearns to connect, to share, to love. And yet, this entire journey has been a deep, inward pilgrimage. It has required silence, solitude, and a fierce protection of your own inner space. Here we arrive at a seeming paradox, a crossroads that can confuse even the most dedicated traveler. Is the path of the manuscript a solitary one, leading us away from the world to a hermit's cave on a mountaintop? Or is it a path of engagement, leading us back into the messy, beautiful, complicated heart of human connection? The 19th great truth reveals that this is a false choice. The path is not one or the other. The path is a sacred, rhythmic dance between the two. It is the dance of solitude and connection. Our spiritual imagination is often captive to two false extremes. The first is the hermit's fallacy. This is the belief that true spiritual depth requires a complete withdrawal from the world, from the messiness of relationships, from the demands of society. We romanticize the idea of the lone mystic, untouched by the chaos of ordinary life. This can be a subtle trap of the ego, a form of spiritual bypassing. We use the noble quest for purity as an excuse to avoid the difficult, humbling, and essential work of learning to love other imperfect human beings. We fear that our hard-won inner peace is a fragile thing that will be shattered by contact with the world, but a peace that can only exist in perfect, silent conditions is not true peace. It is a delicate greenhouse flower. True peace is the sturdy oak that can stand serene in the midst of a storm. To hide forever in the cave is to misunderstand the purpose of finding the light. The second false extreme is the connection junkie's fallacy. This is the belief that our healing, our identity, and our purpose can be found entirely through other people. This is the soul that is terrified of being alone. It uses social activity, relationships, and the constant feedback of others as a shield against the perceived emptiness of its own inner world. It seeks a partner to complete it, a community to define it, a constant stream of external validation to assure it that it exists. This soul never gets to read its own manuscript because the voices of the tribe are always shouting over the quiet whisper of its own inner truth. It outsources its sense of self and so remains a stranger to its own depths. One path leads to a cold, detached isolation. The other leads to a frantic, depleted codependence. The true path of the manuscript lies in the graceful rhythm that moves between them. This is the inner dance between the mystic and the lover. The mystic is the part of your being that has been cultivated on this journey. It is the seeker of silence, the witness of thoughts, the alchemist of pain. The mystic knows on a cellular level that it requires solitude to function. It needs quiet to integrate its experiences, to recharge its energy, to hear the subtle guidance of the universe. The mystic's primary orientation is inward, toward depth, toward communion with the great mystery within. The lover is the part of your being that awakens as a natural result of the mystic's work. As you connect with your own inner wellspring, a love and compassion begins to overflow. The lover knows that this love is not meant to be hoarded. Its nature is to be shared. The lover understands that spiritual truths are not abstract theories to be contemplated in isolation. They are muscles to be strengthened through the practice of kindness, patience, and presence with others. The lover's primary orientation is outward, toward connection, toward service to the whole. The conflict arises when we believe we must choose between them. The mystic fears the world will drain its energy. The lover fears solitude is a selfish act. But they are not two separate beings. They are two faces of a single, whole self. The core message, the 19th great truth, is that solitude and connection are the inhale and the exhale of a conscious life. They are not opposites. They are partners in a vital rhythm. In solitude, you inhale. You draw the world into you. You connect with your own deep source. You fill your lungs with the prana of your own being. You refuel. You remember who you are. In connection, you exhale. You offer your presence, your gifts, your love to the world. You empty your lungs, creating the space for the next inhalation. To only inhale is to suffocate in self-absorption. To only exhale is to deplete yourself into burnout. The art of a mature spiritual life is to master this sacred breath, to know when to draw inward and when to pour outward. You retreat into the cave, not to hide from the world, but to find the light that you will carry back to the tribe. You go to the tribe not to lose yourself, but to share the light you have found in your cave. This is the endless, life-giving dance. This dance is like the rhythm of the tides. There is a necessary and natural time for your energy to recede, to pull back into the deep, quiet mystery of your own being. This is your solitude, your inner low tide. It is a time for rest, for integration, for connecting with the profound stillness at your core. Then, just as naturally, there is a time for the tide to rush forward, to pour its energy onto the shore of the world. This is your connection, your high tide. It is a time for action, for expression, for engaging with others, for bringing the cleansing, life-giving water of your presence to the collective. To demand that your life be a perpetual high tide of social engagement or a perpetual low tide of solitary retreat is to fight a fundamental law of your own nature. The wise sailor does not fight the tides. She learns their rhythm and uses it to navigate. The practice of this dance begins with honoring both states. You must schedule your solitude with the same seriousness you schedule your meetings. Treat an hour of quiet reading, a walk in nature, or a period of silent meditation as a non-negotiable appointment with your own soul. It is not empty time. It is refueling time. It is essential maintenance for your inner world. Likewise, you must schedule your connections with a new quality of intention. When you commit to being with another person, be fully there. Put the phone away. Listen with your whole being. Offer the gift of your undiluted presence. This is quality over quantity. An hour of true, present connection is more nourishing than a day of distracted socializing. Learn the art of the clean transition. Before you enter a period of solitude, take 3 conscious breaths and silently set the intention to release the world and journey inward. Before you emerge from your solitude to engage with others, take 3 conscious breaths and set an intention for how you wish to show up, perhaps with patience or with an open heart. This practice is like a sacred airlock between the inner and outer worlds. It allows you to move between them with grace and intention, rather than feeling jarringly pulled from one to the other. And above all, listen to your own unique rhythm. Some days you will need more cave time. Some days you will be called to be more with the tribe. The divine compass of your body will tell you what you need. A feeling of depletion and irritability is often a sign you need to inhale to retreat. A feeling of stagnation and loneliness is often a sign you need to exhale, to connect. Trust this inner guidance. You are not a hermit. You are not a socialite. You are a dancer, learning the beautiful, lifelong rhythm of the breath, the tides, the cave, and the tribe. We have journeyed far. We have walked through the cacophony of the external world and stood in the resonant silence within. We have cut the heavy anchor of the past and learned to navigate the fog of the future with the light of a single step. We have dismantled the cage of shoulds, entered the alchemist's forge, danced the rhythm of solitude and connection, and learned to read the compass of our own bodies. We have done the work, and so we arrive at the final unfolding, the 20th great truth, which is not a new practice, but the culmination of all that has come before. It is the question that hangs in the quiet, cleared space of your own being. Where, after all this, is the manuscript? Where is the divine text that was promised? You look around, and there is no ancient scroll, no celestial letter, and in that moment of looking, you finally understand the manuscript is not a thing to be found. It is a presence to be lived. You are not searching for it. You are writing it with your own life. This is the great and final integration. It is the cessation of the frantic search, the dissolving of the restless seeker within. The seeker, that part of you driven by a sense of lack, believed the answer was always in the next book, the next workshop, the next epiphany. The search ends not because you have found a final, perfect answer, but because you have become comfortable living within the profound, beautiful questions. The need for an external authority, for a map handed to you from on high, falls away. You have come to realize that the compass, the anchor, the sun, the sky, the river, all of it was within you all along. The practices that once felt like conscious, effortful doings begin to dissolve into your natural way of being. You no longer need to remind yourself to be mindful. You simply find yourself more present. You no longer practice discipline as a chore. You simply act with integrity from a place of self-love. You no longer have to work at setting boundaries. You simply inhabit your own sovereignty. The scaffolding that was so necessary to build the house of your new self can begin to come down because the structure itself is now sound. It has become you. But here lies the final, most subtle trap of the journey. As the old ego with its insecurities begins to fade, a new and more cunning ego can arise in its place. The spiritual ego. This is the ego that takes all this profound inner work and turns it into a new, superior identity. It is the voice that whispers, "I am spiritual. I am more aware than those around me. I have healed my trauma. I understand the way things are." It begins to judge others for their unconsciousness. It becomes attached to its own state of peace and is irritated when the world disturbs it. This spiritual ego builds a new cage, a beautiful cage decorated with crystals and smelling of incense, but a cage nonetheless. It is the final boss of the inner world. The true integration we are speaking of is the courage to let go of even this enlightened identity. It is the humility to be no one special. It is to move from the identity of one who is spiritual to the simple, unadorned, and infinitely vast reality of just being. It is the difference between loudly proclaiming your peace and quietly being the peace in the room. The core message, the 20th and culminating truth, is that you have become the manuscript. The wisdom is no longer a concept you are studying. It is the very blood in your veins, the very rhythm of your breath. You are no longer the musician struggling to read the sheet music. You have become the music itself. The melody of your life now flows through you, not as a performance, but as an authentic and effortless expression of your deepest being. You are no longer the traveler studying the map. You have become the territory. You are the living landscape, the mountains of your strength, the rivers of your emotion, the vast open sky of your awareness. The purpose of the journey was never to acquire the manuscript. It was to realize you are its author, and that you are writing a new, fresh page with every conscious breath. How, then, does one live from this place of integration? The practice has become more subtle, more of a moment-to-moment orientation than a formal technique. First, you learn to live the question. You no longer seek definitive answers from the outside. Instead, you hold a core question within you and allow your life to be the answer. You might hold the question, what would love do here? And in a difficult interaction, you do not think about the answer. Your response, your presence, becomes the answer. You might hold the question, how can I be of service in this moment? And the way you listen to the person in front of you, the way you perform a simple task with care, becomes the living embodiment of that service. You are no longer solving the problems of your life. You are dissolving them by showing up from a deeper place of being. You practice the art of the integration check-in. This is the gentle self-awareness that guards against the spiritual ego. You ask yourself, not with judgment, but with curiosity, is my inner work making me feel more separate and superior, or more connected and compassionate? Am I acting from a place of authentic resonance, or from a new set of spiritual shoulds? This honest inquiry keeps your ego in check and your heart open. It ensures that your growth leads to more love, not to a more refined form of isolation. And finally, you discover the profound divinity of the ordinary. The integrated life is not a life of perpetual bliss, of walking on clouds, of constant cosmic fireworks. The fireworks were in the initial awakenings, the dramatic breakthroughs. The deep, abiding peace of integration is found in the simple, loving, and full inhabitation of your ordinary life. The truth of the manuscript is not just in the silence of your meditation cushion. It is in the rich taste of your morning coffee. It is in the sound of rain against your window. It is in the warmth of a shared laugh. It is in the way you meet the frustration of a traffic jam with a patient breath instead of a clenched jaw. Enlightenment is not an escape from your life. It is the total embrace of your life. It is realizing that the sacred is not somewhere else. It is right here, in this body, in this breath, in this moment. The search is over. You have arrived where you always were, but for the first time, you truly know the place. You are the manuscript, open, alive, and still being written. We began with a feeling of waiting, a quiet, persistent sense that a divine manuscript, a letter written specifically for your soul, had been sent long ago, but was lost in transit. This entire journey has been a process of clearing the space, stilling the air, and making yourself ready to receive it. But now, in the quiet clarity of your own being, you can see the final, liberating truth. There was no lost letter. There was no map sent from a distant star. The premise was a beautiful, necessary mistake. The waiting is over, not because the message has finally arrived, but because you have finally realized you are not the recipient. You are the author. The divine manuscript was never a pre-written text to be handed to you. It was a blank book and a golden pen placed in your hands at birth. This entire journey was not about learning to read a foreign text. It was about learning to write in your own native tongue. Quieting the noise of the world was so you could hear your own first sentence. Releasing the anchor of the past was so you could turn to a clean page. Forging the sword of your will was so you could hold the pen with a steady hand. Befriending the darkness was so you would not be afraid to write your story, even the difficult chapters. Becoming the sky was so you could accept every word, every paragraph, every edit with unconditional love. You were never searching for a guide. You were becoming one. This state of openness is not a final destination. It is your new starting point. It is a quiet power that resides not in having all the answers, but in being at peace with the questions. It is a calm certainty that is rooted not in controlling the world, but in trusting your ability to dance with it. You no longer need to seek permission from the outside, because you have finally claimed the sovereignty of your own soul. You are the authority you were waiting for. The divine manuscript was never a map to be found. It was the territory to be claimed. The page is blank, the ink is full, the pen is in your hand. Begin.